Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Halloween episode of Marvelous Movie Mondays, starring Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin from Hawkeye, and what looks like Draco Malfoy. Hello, Kelsey. Happy Halloween. How you
Hi.
doing?
It is Draco Malfoy.
I was gonna
Thank
say
you.
you've got the wig. I was not able to get the bald cap, but I tried to put my hair back as far as I can. I also couldn't find a cream blazer, so I have my arms off screen, so it looks kind of somewhat like I'm put together as Kingpin from Hawkeye with the shirt. It really was inspired by the shirt. I was like, I got the Kingpin shirt, so why don't I just find a
Yeah.
cream blazer? So I found a cream vest. It's something. It's not as good as Miss Minutes from last year, but it's something. Um, I actually did a Snapchat bald feature on my phone.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I will show you that. But tell us what? How did you conceive your costume? I love the costume.
Well, Dill, I got this tie once I retook the sorting quiz again. Okay, so a little bit of backstory here. So Dill and I went to the same high school, and
Oh,
at
it
that
looks
high
better
school,
bald, by the way. See,
oh my God, you look sick! Wow, you kind of look like Vincent D'Onofrio
thank you. You see, that's what I was
if
going for, just
if
with the
you
hair and stuff.
shave.
So why don't I try to like tilt the camera down so you can't see the top of my head? Maybe.
Okay. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. I'm digging it. So Dylan and I were in the same acting class in high school. We got sorted into the Hogwarts houses in said acting class, and I had no idea about Harry Potter at all. I hadn't read the books. I hadn't seen the movies. I knew nothing. I was going in blind. And so I was put into Hufflepuff based off of the responses that I gave. Which, never felt right to me at the time. I knew I was I was looking around at my fellow puffs, and I was like, there's not much in common here, I feel. So once I had read all the books again and I
Hmm.
watched all the movies, I got sorted into my proper house, which was Slytherin. So I got this tie and I got this cardigan from the Harry Potter store. It's Slytherin themed. And you know what? I was like, all I'm missing is a blonde wig, and then boom, I can be Draco Malfoy at the drop of a hat.
That's smart. Yeah, like I feel like for Halloween, you always kind of need like that one costume that, like, in a pinch, you can just
Yeah,
throw together. And this
for
isn't even
sure.
that for me. For me, it'd be Forrest Gump. But now that I actually am employed by Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have that be my Halloween costume, because I'm gonna say some things on this podcast that I'm like, maybe I just shouldn't do it in my work uniform, or at least the
Sure.
hat, because the same hat is the one that Forrest Gump uses. So I got to find a new go-to. I'm not sure what that'll be, but welcome everyone to Marvelous Movie Mondays. That was our costume reveal with one another. We actually didn't show each other costumes until the theme song was airing, and then we turned on our
Mhm.
cameras. So that was fun little Halloween shenanigans. We're actually getting 2 episodes today. The real episode's coming later today. That's some trivia. We had 2 really great matches. We're excited for you to see. We won't spoil those here. But now we just kind of wanted to say happy Halloween. We missed last week, so we wanted to make it up for you with 2 episodes and just kind of like shoot the shit about Halloween and just talk about our greatest Halloween memories, and then also talk about the movies that we've been watching, because it is Halloween season. We watch a lot of spooky movies, and for the past few years now, this is my third year doing a 31 days of Halloween, and Kelsey just started it this year for her TikTok, but she did it in a random order, and I did like my calendar, so it was kind of fun. We'll talk
Mhm.
about that experience in a bit, but
For
Kelsey,
sure.
are you a fan of Halloween, or are you like one of those people who like summer's over and you're like Christmas, let's go, or do you take the time to really honor the spooky season?
Jill, this is the first time really ever in my life that I've gone super hard during the spooky season by watching these movies and doing
Mhm.
this fun little thing. I was honestly inspired by Taylor Swift because at the same time, at the beginning of October, she was revealing the titles of her songs on her new
For
album that just
Midnight's,
came
yeah.
out for Midnights. Available everywhere, streaming now. Take a listen. And so for some reason, I just was like, you know what? Like I like scary movies. I am a horror movie fan. I personally believe though that all of the best scary movies come out in the summer and not during this time of year.
I'd agree. Yeah,
Because
I
I
think
just feel like
I
this
agree.
time of year, like they're all like way too similar. Like it's all just like a cash grab. Like, you know, there people think like, oh, we'll put it out at then because that's when everyone will want to see them. But in the summer, like you get some real gems in the summer with horror.
Mhm.
Like that's both when both of the Quiet Place movies came out was like they both came out in like May.
Yeah.
You get some like real good gems in the summer
Yeah,
for
and
summer
and now
thrills.
especially with streaming being such a thing, like we're getting a lot of good streaming stuff too, which is fun. Like we're gonna talk about a few movies that are streaming movies today. Just like it's fun to see just
Mm,
that resurgence as well. Because I agree with you, like the Halloween movies, not the franchise Halloween, which actually released I think a very good movie this year, but like normally around
mm,
this time of year, the movies that are put out are like kind of like the really jump scare heavy horror movies because it's like the
yeah.
ones with the crowds. Whereas I think the more nuanced ones, or maybe some of the bigger budget ones, come out earlier in the year. Like my favorite horror movie of the year so far is Nope, the Jordan Peele movie, and that came out
Mm.
I think July or August this year.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Yeah, so
Summer
um,
scare movie.
yeah, and one of my other ones is Fresh, which came out like literally March of this year on Hulu. So it's like it's cool to see different types of movies coming out at different times of years. Was that one of your movies we were going to talk about?
No, but
Oh,
that's a
okay.
really good movie, Dill, and I'm really excited that you watched it.
Yeah, once we eventually get to our Sebastian Stan movie club, that is gonna be on there because I think it's
Oh,
his best
for
performance
sure.
ever.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, like
But to
what
answer
do
your
you?
question, Dill,
Yeah.
no, I don't like Halloween.
Okay, so you don't have like traditions or anything that you do, but like, what is your favorite like costume you've ever done? Like, what are some? Do you have any like good Halloween memories or anything like that?
Well, Dill, see, here's my quarrel with Halloween, right? I feel like all of my best Halloweens were from when I was 3 to like 9. And then I feel like once you got into middle school, it's like, yeah, you could still go trick or treating, but it's like you were still trying to do that thing that's like, oh, but I'm too cool to do the kids stuff now. And
Hmm.
then it's like you're in high school, you're definitely not trick or treating anymore. Like now you're either going to parties or you're like doing what I did all throughout high school, which was basically just like stay home because like I wasn't
Yeah.
going to any like serious ragers when I was like 14, 15. So I'm
Well,
like, this is just a lame holiday now. I don't like this.
we've been dealt some weird hands on Halloween because we had the one year where Chris Christie canceled Halloween. We
Oh,
were
yeah,
from we
yeah,
were from
yeah.
New Jersey, and Chris Christie was the governor at the time, and there was a really bad Hurricane Irene. Actually, it wasn't even Sandy; it was Irene. And Christie basically canceled Halloween in New Jersey. He was like, "It's too dangerous
Yeah.
because there were trees everywhere, there were wires falling down, there was flooding and puddles and shit. Like my whole street was underwater. Irene actually
I
hit me
remember
worse than
that.
Sandy did. I
Yeah.
actually had to stay at our friend Bart's house actually for a good week because the south side did not get hit as bad as the north side. We couldn't get
No.
into our town, into our side of town.
Yeah.
So that year sucked, and I remember getting into a basement with a bunch of friends, actually friends that we share, that you probably didn't even know yet because it was middle school.
Probably
Our
not.
good buds. You live with one of them now. But like a bunch of us in a basement, we did a Toy Story theme. So I was the Green Army Man because everyone else got dibs on Woody, Buzz, Jesse, all the cool ones. But
Oh.
we all just kind of dressed up in a basement and watched Hocus Pocus, and I was the only one who had seen Hocus Pocus, and I was like, "Y'all haven't seen Hocus Pocus?" So we watched it.
Mm.
And I know you haven't seen Hocus Pocus till this year too, but
Yeah.
yeah, because I've been following your TikToks. But yeah, that was a fun memory. I also loved just freshman year of college, just being in the city for the first time because I was like, it
Yeah.
was just so much fun because everyone in the city dresses up. It's like not
Yeah.
weird to be an adult and be dressed up for Halloween. Because I agree, like when you hit high school age, I think freshman year of high school, a bunch of us did still go out and like did the Halloween thing. I think we were all freshmen. Yeah, we did like a Disney zombie thing, like me and a few other people, and um,
See, that's cool. You have fun friends still. Not that my friends weren't fun. It's just
but
that I
no,
would have.
it's funny because they're your friends too. It's just you were not part of
No, I
that
know,
group
but
yet
like,
until like junior,
no,
which is
yeah,
funny.
because I've been living a double life my whole life where I have like my theater friends and then my non-theater friends. And it's not that my non-theater friends are like not fun. I love them to death. They're my best friends in the whole wide world. It's just that I wanted to do the crazy costumes that's like, yeah, let's be dead Disney characters. And they were like, no, I want to be a bunny. Or
Well,
like
let me show
I'm
you
gonna
because
be a
all this is
soccer
on
player.
all this is on my social media, but you'll recognize some faces there. I won't name them because they were not given licensing to be on there. But there's a me and a good friend of mine here that you know. It was who actually just recently got engaged. Congratulations! We're Hook and Smee zombified, and then Peter Pan there. We got Belle, Aladdin, Ariel, Eric, Prince Eric, and then a Newsy, a zombified Newsy. So that was a
Wow.
fun
See,
little
that's
time.
fun.
Yeah,
See, like I always wanted to do something. I like there's two types of girls on Halloween, and I'm not the
that was
girl
my
that's
makeup.
like,
That was all courtesy of Becky Randazzo right there.
oh,
Um,
nice. You
yeah,
killed it, Dill.
I literally did.
I'm not. I was growing up. I was not the girl that was like, I'm just gonna wear lingerie and ears and call myself a cat. Like I wanted to do like weird, funny things.
You wanted
Like
to go
my
all out. Yeah.
my track record of costumes is like not anything like super. I don't know, like basic, dare I
Mhm.
say, or typical.
Right.
So I
Um,
just I have a love hate relationship with this holiday. Mostly hate.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, as I was saying though, like freshman year
but
when it
Jill,
got here,
you love
yeah,
Halloween.
I love Halloween, and I think it's because like I also got the whole experience of like you're going to the city and everyone's out trick or treating and it's freezing at this time of year too. So
Yeah.
it's like that kind of fun of like, oh, I got to find something to bundle up, or I'm just gonna like go all out and get sick
Yeah.
for the whole
Yeah.
week. You know, and it was okay if you did that. But I remember my freshman year specifically is when Chipotle started doing their $1 burritos on Halloween. Or I think it was because it was the 31st. It was like $3.10 burritos or whatever, and like we had 4 Chipotle's within like a 3 block radius of our dorms. So we literally, because our dorms were right in the middle of New York City, so we literally walked to like 4 Chipotle's and paid I think $12 total. And we came back to the dorms, and there's a video I have of me, Landon, Patrick, my friends from college,
Yeah.
dumping out these pillowcases with just these burritos inside and filling up a bathtub full of burritos.
You went
And then
trick or treating at Chipotle,
we did. We went
essentially.
other places too, because you can't really trick or treat in New York City because everything's
Yeah.
apartments. So it's like you have to
Yeah.
be either in your apartment building going around, which unless your apartment has kids, it never happens. So like we never have candy here already because we don't have kids in our building. But you kind of have to go to the businesses, and where we were, there
Yeah.
weren't a lot of like businesses open that late, so we were just kind of walking around, just kind of enjoying the atmosphere, and just
Totally.
seeing everything. And my funniest Halloween memory is our friend Patrick, who Kelsey. He
Yeah.
he dressed as like a French mime or whatever. He had like the black and white striped shirt with the makeup and like a
Yeah.
kind of like the Tangled
Nice.
guy.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
we walk by a Paris baguette, which for people who don't know who aren't from New York, it's like a bakery chain in New York that's like you can find them in every neighborhood pretty much. They have your croissants and your baguettes and all the basic staples, but it is
Mm.
a chain, and the workers are forced to wear the same thing. So we walk by, and Patrick goes, Ashanti, and walks into the restaurant, walks into the bakery, and starts ordering in the same outfit that the cashier behind the counter is ordering it. That was just so funny.
That's really
We're
funny.
all cracking up because we're like, what are the odds that we're going to see someone like literally dressed the same? But my favorite costume has got to be Paddington. I pulled it up. I mean, that was my biggest accomplishment because it was kind of where I learned that it didn't need to be full cosplay. Like you didn't need to drop hundreds of dollars like when you were a
Yeah.
kid. You didn't have to go to the store and buy a costume. Like I literally just bought a nice trench coat. I bought a red bucket hat and I bought bear ears and a jar of marmalade. And I was like, that's easy. And brown
Yeah.
gloves. So it's like, and that's when I kind of found like the DIY side of it, and I haven't turned
Sure,
back because
yeah.
last year, if you guys go back to the videos, I was Miss Minutes, and that was all DIY too. So like, I like the DIY ness of just being able to kind of like buy pieces and put it together rather than going
Mhm.
to the store and buying a costume, because that to me now is like more like that's for the kids. That's part of the
Yeah.
kid part of Halloween. That's the commercial side of Halloween. But I do love the holiday. I think it's fun, especially because of the movie watching, which I know you're kind of jumping on the bandwagon now. But like just
Mhm.
being able to kind of celebrate that spooky atmosphere, and not necessarily horror movies specifically, but just like movies that embody the vibe or like kind of that haunting nature. Movies about autumn, movies about fall. Like even when Harry Met
Mhm.
Sally is fun at this time of year because there's that scene when they're
Yeah.
walking through Central Park with all the leaves and
Yep.
stuff. And you added like all the Harry Potters to your list because those aren't really
I
like
did.
horror, but they do fit that vibe. You know what I mean? They're witches and wizards and spooky stuff is going on. Yeah,
I
so
agree.
yeah,
I got some shit for watching the Harry Potter movies
it's
for
because they're
like
not horror.
time of year.
Yeah, but
But I
I
just feel
think
like they're spooky. It's
they are.
spooky season.
Well, and that's where I think it's a lot of people are like, we only watch horror in October. I'm like, yeah, but there's also so much horror or so many films, and I want to do 1 month in the future where I just look at autumnal films that don't have horror in them, just like to kind of
Mm,
take in the vibes, because there are a lot of movies like that,
sure.
movies that are like kind of creepy, but more of just like the vibe. And even the original Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, it's a horror movie for sure. It's scary, but a lot of it is just kind of wandering through Haddonfield and kind of just seeing the leaves on the trees and just the kind of dry, arid nature of the sky and the neighborhoods and the fogginess and like I love that. I love that vibe and that aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, Halloween is not just the day; it's the whole season. It's the aesthetic. It's the leaves on the trees. It's why I also don't skip Thanksgiving. I don't jump right from Halloween to Christmas because I'm also
No,
like
absolutely
I
not.
really like these seasons that are connected. Like for me, Halloween, all the leaves are on the trees. Thanksgiving, all the leaves are on the ground in beautiful piles, and then in Christmas it's all the snow's on the ground. Like that's the aesthetic I picture in my head, and that's why I
Yeah,
like each holiday on their own because I like the aesthetics, you know.
for sure. Dill, Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday. So
Same going. I'm gonna say it's mine as well. Yeah.
I'm definitely not a summer ends and now I'm ready for Christmas girl, because I tough it through Halloween, whatever my friends force me
Mhm.
to do. And then once November hits, I'm really in my element because now I'm just coasting until Thanksgiving. And then after Thanksgiving, then I'll start the Christmas music, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and
Then
honestly,
the
I do
holiday
think
starts.
yeah, I do think the reason people kind of brush aside Thanksgiving is because October has the horror movies, Christmas has the Christmas movies. There's really nothing for Thanksgiving, and there's sadly nothing for Hanukkah either. So like we
Mm,
need more Hanukkah representation. We need more Thanksgiving representation in film because right now all I can think of is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is a great film, but it's also one film. So if we
right.
can find 31 Thanksgiving films, that's the goal. Um, but let's talk about these lists. Let's talk about all the movies we watched. Kelsey, do you have anything else to say on the holiday before we transition to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Jill, freshman year of college, I also had a decent Halloween because that's the year
Yeah,
we hung out.
that's right. You did come to the city. I
Remember?
remember
I
that.
came up to the city and we did an
Yeah,
escape room together.
we did, and
See, that was fun.
it was just funny because it was only three of us, ourselves and our friend Kelly, and we were in an escape room. But they don't let just three people go in if it's like a busy time, I guess. And it wasn't really a busy time, but they like paired us with these strangers. So we're
Yeah.
in there and we're just dressed kind of normally. Like I don't even think we had much of a costume. I don't think we had any costume, right?
I was wearing some cat ears. That was like the extent of it.
Yeah, and like
But
they
no,
even
they were
came in,
like
yeah, they came in and they're like the Joker and Harley Quinn, but like full on makeup.
yeah,
And like I did the Joker one year. I feel like every guy has to do the Joker at some point
sure.
in their life.
It's like a
Um,
rite of passage.
but like it was just weird because like I turned the corner and they're like, "These are your partners for the day," and we're just looking at them. It's like 11 p.m. in New York City, and there's these people
Yeah.
dressed as the Joker in an escape room with you, where you have to literally the goal is to get out in an hour or else. And we're like, "Oh," and we're like, "Can you pass the key?" And he's like, "Sure," and I'm like, "Okay." That was a fun night. That was a very
But we
fun night.
escaped. We got
We
out.
escaped, and you and Kelly convinced our taxi driver that you were British, or maybe you thought you did. I don't know if he was actually convinced, but you don't remember that? Okay.
No,
Um,
maybe. Sounds
yeah.
like me.
But yeah, that was a fun memory. Like I think Halloween, it's only as good as the people you share it with, and it's been tough, especially with COVID, and
Mhm.
like we said, we had that hurricane year, and just when you get older, there's kind of that stigma of, oh, I only go out to Halloween parties if I can like if it's like a rage or like I don't go trick or treating, and that's fine. I don't go trick or treating anymore either. But I kind of like to just kind of walk around on Halloween and see what's out there and just kind of
Sure.
explore. Not necessarily in costume either, unless it's like a subtle costume. But I always try to find some sort of costume to wear just to kind of feel like I'm part of the spirit. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have any like terrible Halloween memories, like really bad?
I think it's gotta be freshman year of high school
Mm.
because I got all dressed up and ready to go, and like my friends were like totally bailed on me. And it was just so sad because I was like, it was just like that scene in the movie where you just feel so bad for the main character. It's just like I was so defeated and I had to
How
like take off
excessive
all
of
my
a costume
makeup.
was it? Oh yeah, you did makeup and everything.
So it was, I can tell you what it was. It was okay. So Taylor Swift's album 1989 just came out.
Oh, so you
Obviously, it
were
was
all
Taylor Swift
different
themed.
tailors.
Uh, no, no, no. So, she has in her most popular song ever, Blank Space, she has a lyric that says, "Darling, I'm a nightmare dressed like a daydream." So I had essentially made my makeup look like, I think I did like really dark eyes and like I teased my hair, like made myself look really ratchet. But then I was wearing like a really pristine like dress and I had like pearls
Oh,
on.
that's a
So
cool
I was
idea.
a nightmare dressed as a daydream. And they were just like, yeah, it's just not happening. And I was like, okay, well, this is done now. And then I just like put myself to bed. And then like to put the nail in the coffin, my dad came upstairs and was like, what are you doing? You're not going out? And I think that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think I
Yeah.
just started sobbing.
Oh,
So yeah, I think that yeah, I'm sorry I didn't have a funnier story, but yeah,
no,
that's for sure
I
the
mean
worst
it's not a
one.
funny sad. That's a sad story. I can't think of like a funny one.
Like a funny, like bad thing that happened. That's just sad.
I mean, no, not really. I mean, the funniest thing is that my mom, one year, someone took the whole candy bowl, because the kids are annoying and they didn't want
Someone
it. They were
stole your
taking us.
whole bowl?
Someone stole the whole bowl like early in the night, so she put out broccoli for the rest of the night. Just put out a bowl of
That's
broccoli. She
funny.
was like, and put on the note. She was like, "Someone stole it, so here you go." It was like
Broccoli.
someone ruined the rest of. Someone ruined this house for everyone else. Sorry. Um,
Yeah.
so now
Damn.
you all have to live with the broccoli, which I thought was a great move, and some people took it, because it wasn't like cooked broccoli either. It wasn't
It was
prepared or anything. It was
raw?
just it was like in the stalks, so like they were kind of like sectional, like little stalks of broccoli.
Sure,
And some
yeah.
people took them, so let's move
To
on.
balance out all the sweets. I get you.
Let's move on
But
to
I
talking about these movies, though. Yeah, because I
but
want to
wait, I
hear.
didn't tell you my favorite costume I've ever had.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Go ahead, Kels. You lead this.
Okay. So I have two. So my
I
junior
thought
of
that was
college.
your favorite costume. That's why I thought that was one of the same.
Oh,
Because that is a
no,
cool
that
costume.
was
The Nightmare Dressed Like a Daydream.
thank you. I thought it was created myself. Too bad no one got to see it. Anyway, my favorite costume had to have been my junior year of college. I was Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really good costume. I put my hair back into a bun. I wore like a white like button down type of really fancy blouse and just had like a black cardigan on, like a Supreme Court justice. I was really proud of that one. And I'm also really proud of my senior year of high school. See, 3 years later, my friends made it up to me because we had senior year of high school. We were all the characters from Up. So I
I
was
remember that.
Kevin,
I
the
remember
bird. My friend Lauren was Russell. My friend Jen was Doug, the dog. And my friend Taylor was Mr. Fredrickson. And we actually won in the yearbook. Look it up. We won best group costume that year. And it's because I made us do that. And I was like, literally, I was like, guys, we just have to walk around. So whoever's voting for it knows to vote for us.
I was gonna say, I think your roommate Lil and I are in that yearbook also as the Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood. I think we've won
Yes.
some sort of
Like
creativity
a
award
do,
too.
like a yeah.
Duo or best creativity. If
I
you
don't know why I reached.
was gonna say-
I don't have the yearbook. I don't know why I reached.
Well, and I think that's one thing
No.
too that you kind of mentioned earlier. It's like
Yeah.
being a theater kid. Theater kids are always down to dress up for Halloween. It's just how it
Exactly.
is. So that was always nice because I
A
remember
performer performs.
when I was trying to find someone to do it with, I was like, because I found because the new Into the Woods had just come out with Johnny Depp and stuff. That was
Mhm.
before Johnny Depp was Johnny Depp as we know him now. So everyone was like, "Oh, cool, Johnny Depp is a wolf." So I like wanted to dress up as Johnny Depp, wolf with like the suit and then the fedora with the ears, like trying to make it look almost
Yeah.
a little bit more hybrid human. wolf.
Yeah. For
And then
sure.
I was like, if anyone wants to, dress up as like Little Red Riding Hood, I put in the group chat, and like so many people were like, I want to know, because like the actors are always game. The actors are always
Yeah.
game for it. So it's very exciting whenever you need like a partner for a costume or a group or something. Like usually actors, even if their friends aren't actors, can usually get their way, like you just said, like get the group together. Like all we have to do is walk together. Like that's all it has to be. And nowadays it's so much easier to like kind of make something, I hate to say it, but like sexy too, where it's like if you're
Mhm.
embarrassed to go out full cosplay. Like I had maybe 3 or 4 friends be sexy Lightning McQueen this year. I was like, why now this year of all years are people like, it was a good idea because I was like, if you're going to a party, like it's a cool idea, the red with like the hat, little racer hat or whatever. But I was like,
Yeah.
why all of a sudden this year am I seeing like 5 or 6 Lightning McQueens? All, like,
Interesting.
friends that like I'm like consider real friends. Like I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
a lot of Lightning McQueens this year. It was just a
Sexy Lightning McQueen.
weird choice, but I did
Kinda
it.
funny.
Yeah, maybe I'll do Sexy Mater next year or like sexy maybe I'll go back to the Toy Story theme and do like Sexy Army Man. I have no idea. But yeah, Halloween's great. I like it. Kelsey not as much, but maybe Kelsey. Now we can segue to the movies. Did watching the movies kind of put you in better spirits for this Halloween? Like, did you feel the vibe of the spooky season?
I was feeling the vibes of the spooky season for sure. It's also very difficult to actually watch one movie every day.
It does.
If
It
if
becomes
you
tough.
have a job or some other responsibilities that you need to tend to,
Well,
it's rather difficult.
it's also difficult because you usually like for me, I like to save them for night because I like to watch a movie
Right.
every night if I can. I'll like put it on the TV. If I fall asleep, I'll finish it in the morning, or I'll just finish it at
Mhm.
some point the next day. Usually, I'll get at least an hour in. And the good news with horror is that a lot of them are like 90 minutes. Like a lot of them are short. At least the ones I
Yeah.
chose, there were none that were more than 2 hours, except for like one or two. And the other good news is that like I have now gotten over the point where I can sleep after horror. But that's a negative for newbies. It's like sometimes they can't go to
Mm,
sleep right after these movies. But I
yeah.
was able to sleep after some of them, so it's easy for me to just kind of throw it on for an hour and a half at night. But you're right; it becomes a tough schedule, and I applaud those who go every day and watch them. There were a few days where I definitely started the movies on time, but I would not finish them yet till the next day or two.
Mhm.
That's just kind of how you got to approach it. But what was when you were curating your list? Like, what did
Yeah.
you? Because you did yours randomly in terms of the order, but like when you were including movies, how many were new watches, how many were rewatches, and like how did you assemble that list as like your core list? Because I had a very distinct approach to mine, which was just A through Z. So every year
Sure.
I was doing one, and this year I was like, I want to do just A through Z. So I started with a number first. I did 28 Days Later, and then I went to A for Audition, B for The Babadook, and I worked all my way to Z, which was Zombies, the Disney Channel original movie.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I went A through Z, which was kind of fun. But how do you
I
did
love
yours?
that idea, Dale. So I basically just went into it thinking of like all of like the Halloween time classics that I feel
Mhm.
I feel like every Christmas, like there's Christmas movies that like I feel like you have to watch, like you
Yep.
have to hit before the season's over. Like I feel like
Yeah.
you have to watch, you have to watch Rudolph. I personally I have to watch the Polar Express.
Yeah.
You
It's a
have to
Wonderful
watch,
Life, Home
it
Alone, Die
yeah,
Hard.
exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe not Die Hard, but anyway, that's neither here nor there.
My favorite
But
Christmas movie. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen it?
no. So
Okay, here's what
maybe
we're gonna
I
do.
I spoke too soon?
I am personally not gonna let you watch Die Hard without me. I'm gonna find a time we're gonna watch Die Hard together around
Okay.
Christmas because it is, and it is a Christmas movie. I will defend it. I know there's a Halloween podcast. It is because it literally ends with snow falling, with "Let It Snow" playing on the radio. There's a scene with a Santa Claus hat.
That's
They
how
say "Ho
weak
ho
your
ho."
criteria is?
No, but I'm saying like it is a Christmas movie. It takes place on Christmas,
Okay.
and Christmas is the reason why the building is vacant. So then the people can rob it because they wouldn't go in on a normal day. It's the fact that
See,
it's
I don't
busy
even know
because
what it's about.
it's like
So the
a
fact that
robbery movie, it's a heist
oh, it's like a
robbery
heist
type thing,
movie?
kind of.
Okay.
But you'll see. But like I think Christmas is an essential part of it. That's the thing. It's like it couldn't exist on any other day but Christmas, and that's why I think it is a Christmas movie, even if it doesn't have the typical beats. Anyway, I can't wait for you to watch Die Hard, but I do believe it is like a Christmas classic, and I would consider it my favorite Christmas movie. Anyway,
Okay,
continue.
interesting.
I just needed to
Um
say that because I don't know if I'm ever gonna get to say that on the channel anywhere else. So
No, yeah, for sure. Honestly, Dill, so that's how I went into making this list. I was like, what are like some absolute movies that I hear everyone talk about this time of year? Movies that immediately came to mind: Halloween, The Shining, The Exorcist, all of like the childhood nostalgic classics like Halloween Town, Hocus
mm,
Pocus, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride. Um, Beetlejuice, and then like some like scary the Blair Witch Project, Silence of the Lambs. I really just try to go like super super classic and like well known enough
mhm.
that like even if you're a non-horror fan, you've at least heard of this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point because also, like you said, like there were so many you hadn't seen, and when you kept saying like first watches, I was like, wow, like you have so many classics to watch, and I think that's the best thing
Yeah.
to just get into it is just to kind of just watch one of each like franchise, big franchise or whatever, and like really just kind of get the base knowledge. But also, like you said, pepper in some non horror there too, like Halloween Town. It's a great way to like celebrate this season without having to be full on scary. It kind of gives you some
Right.
levity and a break. And Harry Potter, which I know you had seen, so it was kind of like those could be kind of your relaxing days to just be like, all right, I know what I'm getting into here. It's gonna be a fun watch.
I just feel like once October hits, like this is because, like I said at the beginning, people are giving me shit for including these Harry Potter movies. I think that they're spooky. I distinctly remember when ABC Family was a thing, that ABC Family throughout the entire month of October
Mhm.
would run Harry Potter weekends where they played all 8 movies. And that's
Yeah.
the only time where I ever got like bits and pieces of the movies growing up.
Mhm.
And it was always during October. And I think that this is just the time of year that is the perfect time to watch Harry Potter movies. You bundle
Agreed.
up with a blanket, you get your butterbeer, you turn on the television. It's a wonderful experience. I
Yeah.
highly recommend it to all my clients.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah, Harry Potter. It is like October, and ABC Family is now Freeform, and I don't think they do that anymore because I think
Mm-mm.
Sci-Fi now has the rights or something. Because I see it on TV all the time. I just don't know what network it is. If it's Sci-Fi or TBS, I
Maybe
don't really
probably
know.
sci-fi.
Yeah, I don't know where the actual rights lie. I feel like those go on and off streaming services all the time, but um, yeah, I would count them, especially the first one because like there is such a big chunk at Halloween, and it's got that spooky score. And then also I'd say the third one because it kind of gets darker there, the Dementors,
Yeah.
which I really like. And
Yeah.
I did tell Kelsey, I was like, let's pick like a top 5, but I was like, let's make it first time watches because I know you love the Harry Potter movies, and I don't want it to just be 5, 4,
Oh
3, 2, 1
no.
Harry Potter.
Oh, no, no, no. They're really good movies. I'm watching all of them, like, for like the 4th time at least, and I'm like, "Damn, these movies are good."
I
I
was gonna
get
say,
why there's like a whole cult following behind this franchise. Like, I
yeah,
get it.
I was gonna
Hence
say too,
me
like,
dress.
I mean, I have my Ravenclaw hat behind me back there, so like it's
Yeah.
such a great franchise that I love very much. But yeah, like let's transition. Do you want to start with the best, or what do you want to start with? Like talking about just in general your overall experience. Like, how was your overall experience watching them? Was it fun, or
Yeah.
were you mostly disappointed, let down, or were you mostly
I definitely wasn't mostly disappointed. I there were some clear disappointments though,
Let's
so I
start
guess
with
we
the
can start
disappointments. Yeah,
there.
yeah. Because I
Then we
want
can
to end
end
on
on a
a
high
good.
note. Yeah, for sure. Um, I
Let's
guess
go
we're
one at a
I'm
time. So like you can give one and then I'll give
yeah,
one.
sure. Yeah,
Because
sure, sure,
I'll
sure.
just I'll just tell you y'all right now, all of these were first time watches for me except for 2. I always end the month with the 30th being Hocus Pocus and the 31st being Halloween every
Yeah.
year. That is my criteria. Every other day this year was different. So I hadn't seen any of these movies except for the last 2, how Hocus Pocus and
Mm,
Halloween. I actually
fun.
haven't watched Halloween yet because I watch it on Halloween and this is coming out, whatever. But I'm watching that tomorrow. But yeah, like I have not seen any of the other ones. So like they're all first watches for me. But how many of these were first watches aside from Harry Potter?
Um, well, here, let me look at my like group of 10 here. One, two, three, four, uh, 5, 6. Okay, so 6 out of my 10 were first time watches. Not all of mine in my top 5 were first time watches, but they're so
Mhm.
good that I included them.
Yeah. Okay.
Or very so
Mhm.
disappointing.
But a majority
But
of the 31 was new watches too, right?
yeah.
Cool. Cool. All right, cool. So tell me, what was one of the ones that you were like, not necessarily even the worst, because like there were movies I knew I was gonna watch, like Disney's Zombies. I knew I was gonna watch it and hate it because I was like,
Sure.
it's just the decoms have gone so down the toilet that I was like, I'm not gonna put it on my 5 most disappointing because I knew it was gonna be bad. Same as Shakma, the movie I watched for Framework. I was like, I know it's gonna be bad. So my list is like the 5 that disappointed me the most. So I don't know if you approach it from the same angle or if you just pick the
No,
5 worst.
yeah.
But, so what's one film that really disappointed you?
So I think I'm gonna start from the one that was like least disappointing and then work
Mhm.
my way to like the one that I was just
Okay,
like
that's it.
absolutely
Yeah,
hated.
that's it. Yeah.
So the one that kind of just made the bottom 5 kind of almost by default because I didn't really know what else to put on my
Mhm.
bottom 5 was Night of the Living Dead. This was
Okay.
actually a second time watch for me. I'd watched this one in a movie class that I took in high school.
Oh,
It was
okay.
during we did a horror unit. So we watched Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. You must have had a different teacher because mine did the same thing, but all she did was Halloween. She was like, "We're gonna watch Halloween, and then maybe some scenes of Nightmare on Elm Street, and then Psycho. I think was the other one,
oh, I watched Psycho in my psychology class in high school.
which makes a lot of sense,
So
knowing who that
I
teacher is
guess
too.
I guess
Um,
that tracks. It's in
um,
the name.
yeah.
So this one, Jill, kind of just made my bottom 5 just because it's pretty dated. You know, it's
Mhm.
literally from the 1960s. The editing style like wasn't it for me. There was some really weird choices when it came to some of the shots. Um, it's a scary concept. There wasn't ton of it that really shocked me and was like not a ton of jump scares that like, make you jump. But and then just like the ending. Oh my god, I was pissed. I don't
Um,
know if I should spoil it. I mean, the movie is
you
from
you
1960,
can,
so it's
and another
like
thing I wanted to mention too is it's one of the only movies that like was not really distributed by any major studios. So like it's on every streaming service. If you go on, it's like literally on every streaming service because it has public domain to like distribute it, which is, I think is just a
yeah.
cool fun fact. So maybe
Mhm.
that's also why like so many people have heard of it, seen it, or at least know of it. It's also the first film that really coined the term zombie. They never say it in the movie, but like
Mhm.
people didn't really refer to reanimated corpses as zombies until this movie came out because people were just talking about it like that, and so this kind of retaught America what an actual zombie was. Like we don't know
Mm.
zombies as they are today without this. So I think it's influential for that reason, but I agree it's a little
Yeah.
dated. But talk about the
Yeah.
ending because I feel like everyone's seen it,
I think
or
it's
if
very
they're
clear.
gonna see it, they can watch it and come back because it's only an hour and a half.
Yeah, there you go. Uh yeah, I definitely think that this movie it's clear that this movie laid a lot of groundwork for like the horror genre, which is like, I can, give credit where credit is due. But the ending of the movie is basically there's one survivor at the end. I'm pretty sure his name is Ben, maybe. And he survives the whole movie.
Yeah.
He's the last man standing from this horde of zombies that's been attacking him all night. And he gets killed at the end of the movie by humans who think he's a zombie in the distance, and he gets shot right between the eyes, and it's just like, are you joking? He
Mhm,
survived the whole night of killing and slaying
mhm.
zombies just to be killed by his fellow man.
And
It guts you.
And do you notice one thing about Ben is that he's a black man, and back in the
Yup.
'60s, that was rare, and I think that's why I actually kind of dig the ending because as sad as I don't dig it in that sense, but like I dig what it's saying because it's like kind of putting some cultural um what do you call it, social commentary at the forefront
Yeah.
too because it's like a black man and he goes through the
It's like
success only to be shot down by his own people. Like I think that's kind of a crazy imagery that's like way ahead of its time, and this was like a
way ahead of its time.
totally polarizing performance because at the time like you never had black people in main roles, let alone the lead of a film like this. So like a lot of
Mhm.
people were thought it was controversial when he was cast, but George A. Romero was just like he was the best for the role. He auditioned really well and got the part, and I like that. I think that's also a great for like breaking boundaries of what film can be. And at the time, like that, it was so transcendent. It's a shame that black people weren't getting more better roles back then, but this definitely helped. I think so. I like it for that, even though I do agree, like it's a little dated here and there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But so
I. Oh, mhm.
that's like the top of my bottom 5.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
I'll put it that way.
I'll say I will continue your thread because I didn't really rank mine. I just have my 5 most disappointing, and that segues us to a good one, which is 28 Days Later, which was the
Mm,
first movie I watched for this. It was my number one because I was going in alphabetical order, and this was the number pick before the ABC. It's
sure.
Danny Boyle's film from 2002. It's basically the first episode of Walking Dead, just a little longer, and it's shot in
Mm.
kind of like a very low budget, kind of shaky cam type of way. It's the guy who like goes to sleep, wakes up, and the whole world is overturned by zombies or whatever, and he's got to find a small group to kind of battle against the zombies. For me, watching it now, when we've had so many things come out since that are about zombies, I was like, I've seen this all before, and I can see how at the time in 2002 this was like super revolutionary. Like 28 Days Later, there was a sequel 28 weeks later, but just as someone watching this from a lens of 2022, 20 years later, I'm like, I watched the whole Walking Dead series, and I think they do this a little bit better, especially in the earlier
Mm.
seasons. So I was just like a little disappointed because everyone puts this on such a pedestal as like this and Night of the Living Dead are like the two greatest zombie movies, and I was like, I mean, it's good, like it's well made,
Mm.
it's interesting, but I'm also like, it just seems a little dated. It seems like something that was really great at the time, but just things have that were inspired by it have just made it better since. So that was definitely in one of my 5 most disappointing, just because everyone had hyped it up so much. And I think that's the tough thing about watching classics is like, or like the modern classics is like people have all raved about them, so like you expect everything to be great.
Mhm.
So when it's not, you're like, oh, that was kind of a dud. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel you, Jill. So the next one on my bottom 5 that I want to talk about is Ghostbusters.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, kind of a letdown, and honestly, it's mainly Bill Murray's fault. I'll say it. I'll name drop right
Wow.
now.
Okay.
He's his character, he's the main character, and like he's supposed to be like this. I don't know. I just feel like you should like the main character. I think at the very least, like you should find some things that you like about him. But I just thought that he was this douchey asshole that was just like sexually harassing the women that he was around just constantly, and just like not even like that cool or like attractive that like you could almost forgive him for it almost. And I just found it like so bizarre that I was like, this is the main dude that is supposed to be leading this movie, and I kind of can't stand watching it because
Wow.
of
Okay.
him. And also like with the only thing that I knew about Ghostbusters going into it was obviously the song. Da 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 da.
Hmm.
Ghostbusters, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I thought the soundtrack was gonna be better due to the fact that they have their own theme song, but it like wasn't really that
Yeah.
memorable. And also I just feel like the main plot of the movie was kind of really wacky, and
Hmm.
like I don't know. I just thought it was gonna be very different.
Yeah, that's fine. And honestly, I think with that, like, I mean, comedy is so subjective, especially when you are such a funny person like yourself, Kel. So it's like, I get it.
Thank you.
I personally love the dry deliveries though. Like we came, we saw, we kicked its ass. I'm like, I love that. Like Bill Murray for me, I think the comedy lands a little bit better. I'm not gonna say I like him as a guy because of all the recent news about him. I know
Sure.
him in the Ant-Man trailer got people all like worked up. We'll talk about the Ant-Man trailer next week for our episode because we're gonna do
Oh,
news then.
right.
But like, I see though how like in this modern lens, like that was a movie like I grew up with, so like I had the nostalgia for, because I think I watched it for my 31 Days of Halloween like 2 years ago. So like, I like the nostalgic point of view of it, but it's interesting to hear from someone who hadn't seen it, like the perspective, because I agree, like maybe the comedy is a little dated, especially at the expense like some of the harassment stuff. Like
Of
I can
women.
definitely see,
Yeah,
yeah, which I haven't thought about because I haven't seen this movie in a while, and sadly, little boy Dill was not thinking about that
for
necessarily
sure.
as
I don't
much.
blame you.
Yeah, but that's a good point. It's an interesting point.
My favorite
Um,
part of Ghostbusters was the secretary.
um,
It's like
Sigourney
the
Weaver's part.
no, 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 not Sigourney
No,
Weaver. Like the only other girl that talks in the movie.
gotcha.
She like answers the phones for them, and it's like Ghostbusters. Like she's funny.
Mhm.
She was the best part in it for me.
Yeah. So my next letdown, and I should have known this was not going to be good, but when you have a movie that's so good like Jaws, and you
Uh huh.
follow it up and you have Jaws 2, let's call it that, because that's the movie I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
That was my pick for Jay.
Hypothetically, let's call it
Hypothetically, let's call it
Jaws
Jaws 2.
2.
Um, how do you screw this up? You know, like how you have a easy
Dill.
premise. It's like you make a chompy shark, you put some people in the chompy waters, and you make them have some interesting character growth based on what they're dealing with in their own personal lives. It's like they watched the first Spielberg movie and said that the only important thing about that movie was the shark, and like that the characters didn't matter. We could put anyone in that boat, anyone could get eaten, doesn't matter as long as the shark is
Mm,
biting away at them. It's like all the
mm.
character arcs doesn't matter. The score, we'll just reuse the same score, it's just it won't come in the right points. Because the beauty of the original, have you seen the original, Jaws?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I will not spoil it, but I mean it's hard not to spoil. But this part I will. It's whenever you hear the music, you know the shark is
Dun
coming, and
dun
it's used so
dun dun.
sporadically though, where like there are points where like it's under the water, but there's no music, so you know it's not there. But just the thought of it maybe coming soon, like
Mm,
it's really well
okay.
used, the score. And here they just used it the whole time to where it just was like, what's the whole point of the score if you're just gonna you know, just blasphemize it. I don't know. I was not a fan of this movie. I expected it to be at least good because it's one of the stars, Roy Scheider of the first movie. And I've heard bad things about the third and fourth one, but I've heard the second one's like fun. It's what it is. But I think coming off of a film as perfect as Jaws, when you deliver and you deliver so subpar, it's like it almost
Mm,
makes it worse. It's like I'd almost rather it be purposefully bad or like such a mess that I could just be like, well, that was fun. It was a fun mess. But this is just the opposite. It's like just boring for the sake of being boring and forgettable. And I'm like, that's the worst type of movie. I'd rather you be so bad that it's entertaining or so good it's entertaining. I don't like the middle ground. I don't like the so bad it's boring side. So Jaws 2 is one of my picks because that was a tough sit. It was probably the toughest sit next to maybe a few others. But yeah, definitely a tough sit here.
The sequels are never good, Dill.
Well, I'll admit my number one is not really a sequel; it's a prequel. But my number one is a prequel. So like,
Okay.
continuations of stories can be good. It's just maybe a sequel to a movie that good.
Okay. All right. I get you.
Because I mean, Harry Potter, the sequels are great.
Oh yeah, that's fair. So the next movie I'm going to talk about, my bottom 5, is Carrie. 1976
okay.
is
Actually,
Carrie.
that's one I haven't seen. So please tell me about Carrie. Give us a little bit of a synopsis.
So Carrie is a story about a girl who is being raised by her very religious mother. She, they pray together every night. They pray before they eat. They pray before they sleep. They pray. They're praying there, and basically, Carrie is so sheltered, and she's such an outsider. She's such an outcast that everyone makes fun of her at school. It all starts off when she gets her first period and she has no idea what's happening to her because her mother didn't explain that to her. I don't know how she got out of every single health class ever, but she had no idea. So then, that just gives more fuel to the fire. People are brutally making fun of her, and it all adds up to her going to the prom with this boy, and they pull a prank on her at the prom. And the entire time she is discovering her newfound power of telekinesis. So it's got layers. It's a Stephen King story.
Yeah. So why didn't it work for you, Kels? I'm interested to hear.
Here's why it didn't work for me, Dill. My main problem with this movie is that it was just too long. The shots in the movie go on for so long. Like, I damn near almost started timing how long they were going to. Like, there's a point at the prom where the girl Sue, who eventually starts feeling bad for Carrie and actually does try to help her. She's the one that allows her boyfriend, Tommy Ross, to take Carrie to the prom. And so Sue sneaks to the prom to, make sure everything's going well. She's making sure Carrie and Tommy are having a good time. And then she notices the prank that's about to be pulled on Carrie. And it literally was just like shot of her looking at the bucket, and then shot of the bucket, shot of her, shot of the bucket. Like, it just went back and forth for like literally 2 whole minutes. And I was like, I get it. She put 2 and 2 together. Okay. It was so infuriating at some points. And like, some scenes were so dragged out and long. And then the scenes that I wanted to be longer were so short and went by so quickly. And I was just, yeah, it was also just, it was the first time John Travolta has ever been on screen, and it was not his best, to say the least.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was in my bottom 5.
Interesting. I've never seen it. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk about one that I thought
want.
I'll talk about one that was like way too long for me, and that is the Omen. The Omen is a 70s film by Richard Donner. It's the basic premise. It's got a really interesting premise. There's this woman who gives birth and her baby dies in childbirth, like or right after childbirth, but she doesn't know. Only the doctor tells the husband it's like the baby didn't survive, and then the husband finds out that this other baby's mother died in childbirth. So he says, can I just take this baby? Like, can this baby be mine? This baby needs a home. His mother died and my baby died. Can I have this baby? And the doctor says, okay, whatever. It turns out to be the child is the devil, basically. So they take this child in and raise it, and it kind of has like an Exorcist thing where it's like it's slowly bruised. Like, you start to see as the movie goes on, like this child gets more and more, like it gets more extreme, and the deaths that it causes are more extreme. The problem with the Omen, though, is that it doesn't get nearly as silly. It doesn't commit to it. Like it doesn't commit to the craziness. Because like
Okay.
the reason it's a letdown is because so many people put this on the pedestal of like it's The Exorcist and The Omen really just nail this type of storytelling, and I'm like, I'm already not as huge a fan of The Exorcist as is, but
Mm.
I think The Omen is not even nearly as good as The Exorcist because The Exorcist goes there in its last act. It really goes there. The Omen doesn't really. It has moments, but it kind of just tampers out at the end. And I'll admit there's like a whole side plot where Gregory Peck, the lead, goes to Italy to kind of like learn about the origins of this devil thing, and it's like 30 whole minutes. And I'm like, we don't need that long of a time to explore the backstory. We just want to see this kid cause all this havoc, maybe try to find some compelling ending, which there is, but it's like not earned by the time we get there. So like the amount of pedestal this movie's been put on, I mean, that's kind of where most of my movies are at. It's like they've been proclaimed as some of the best, so when it's not good, I'm like really disappointed. And The Omen's an example of that, where I think there's good drama there, but like when it should be going out of control horror and really committing to going as gruesome or as bold as they can, they kind of just make it a little soft and not as impactful as it could be, especially when you're comparing it to like The Exorcist, which I don't love, but I think still goes there in its ending. So yeah, the Omen,
Exorcist, something truly.
yeah, is it on your disappointing list or your best
No,
list?
no, 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 no. It's not. We'll talk about The Exorcist later, but it's not
Okay.
on either of my lists here.
Gotcha. Yeah, but yeah, it's a movie that I think has shades of The Exorcist, but doesn't nearly succeed at the same peaks as The Exorcist. I think it just lives in the valleys, if you will. So,
Gotcha.
The Omen, a big disappointment, and another '70s hit. Maybe the '70s is some of the best movies ever, but maybe not horror. There's some
Maybe
good
not
horror in the
horror.
'70s. For sure. I mean, Jaws is one of my favorite horror films of all time. That's the '70s, but Carrie and well, I agree, The Exorcist, but Carrie and The Omen are two of our least favorite horror films of the '70s. But Kelsey, what is another pick for one of your most disappointing?
All right, Dill. This movie, I was fairly disappointed in. And I think these last two, the biggest issues that I had with them is because I feel like they're hyped up a bunch for different reasons.
Okay.
And so the movie I'm going to talk about now is Halloween Town. It might hurt some of you to hear
you
that.
The town at the end, I was like, because I thought you were just gonna say.
I'm gonna say Halloween.
Like, oh my god! I was like, oh no, please don't do that to me.
Oh
Please
no!
don't make me offended on there.
Halloween lives in a nice middle area where it's like I get it.
Okay.
It's not. It's not anything too exciting for me.
I think it's exceptional, but also I watch it every year, so I've kind of like gone all the way in on Halloween. We don't have to talk about Halloween here because it's such a classic. But
sure.
Halloween Town. Tell me, had you seen this one or no?
I had not. I was not a Disney kid growing up, so all of these like Disney classics that everyone raves about this time of year, I've been out of the loop up until now. And it's not really like I don't know. It feels weird to like go in and like really roast like a child's movie from the year it's either 1999 or 2003. 1998?
I think it's 98. The second one is I think like 2001 or something. I don't know. I'll fact check it.
Alrighty. So that's
if I
my
pulled
biggest issue.
That year out of my ass, I'm gonna be shocked.
I'm really impressed.
Halloween Town was 1998. The second one was 2001. How do I know this?
Wow. Iconic, Dill. Good for you.
Trivia.
But that's my biggest issue, Dill, is that it's so outdated. And it's just it just wasn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be. And I called the plot twists, even if you can call it that. It feels really weird to like bash a child's movie, but I could have done without it for sure. But everyone talks about this movie and they're like, "Oh my god, the magic!" She's very fun, but
yeah, it's a nostalgic thing for me.
Yeah. My issue with it is that the whole time it's about I feel like the main what's her name Marnie the main daughter who's like, oh my god, I'm into witchcraft and I'm into weird stuff, and it's like, oh my god, it's because she's on her way of like becoming a witch, and I just feel like she never has like that big moment where like she does something crazy or like she like solves a major like plot point in like the movie. Like she never has like her big moment. I feel like her younger sister Sophie is like doing all the cool magic-y stuff. So I was just like, oh my god, are we gonna figure out figure out at the end of this movie that Marnie's like not a witch and like it skips a generation or something weird like that, because like she hasn't done jack shit, I'll be honest. Dylan, who was the entire time the brother who's like, this is all horse shit, we're probably all dreaming, let's go home. Even he had more magic. He had a more magical moment than Marnie did. And I was like, that was lame. I feel like Marnie should have gotten her time, but she didn't.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's a nostalgic piece for me, but I understand that. Here's one that I think is nostalgic for like my mom's generation growing up, but I didn't dig it. It was boring for me, and it's weird because it stars two of the greatest movie stars of all time. Interview with the Vampire, starring Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise as vampires, and I think it's because of what I expected, and I know people are gonna watch this and be like, Dylan, because like it's like our parents' generation's like kind of Twilight, if you will, because it's like it's not a romance, but it's like these vampires. Brad Pitt, you kind of get his whole life story. It's kind of the framing device is that he's being interviewed, and it kind of goes into his backstory, but you don't need the interview at all. You could just kind of just tell the story. The interview just seems to be there to show that he doesn't age. Like that's the only purpose the interview serves, really, is to show that he's still the same age he was in the 1800s that he is now. It's like, haha, okay, they don't age, we get it. And the whole thing is that like he's a vampire, and like Tom Cruise is like also a vampire, but he's also like a bad influence. And Tom Cruise is doing something weird in this movie. He's like, it's a very like flamboyant performance, but it's also like villainous. It's just very unlike Tom Cruise, you know, because he's got that like very movie star quality, whereas here it's like it's a different approach, which I kind of appreciate, but also like didn't really work for me. But Brad Pitt basically bonds with this young girl who I don't remember if he's forced to like make her a vampire, or like he tries to kill her but accidentally makes her a vampire instead. I don't really remember how it happens, but it's Kirsten Dunst in her first role. She's a kid. She's like 12 or 13 when this movie was made. It was in 94. So like 7 years before Spider-Man. So she's probably like 13, 14, because she was probably in her early 20s for Spider-Man. But she's a young girl, and the whole thing is that you kind of see the progression of time, and she gets more mature, but she never grows. Like she's the same actress. So it's kind of a cool effect. Like it's always Kirsten Dunst, even though she's been around for like now like 40, 50 years living with this guy, and you see their relationship and all the things she missed out on because she can't age, because it's kind of the Sprite thing in Eternals. Like she never gets older.
Okay.
And that is all is interesting, but it's in a 2.5 hour movie, and there's not a lot of horror. I mean, the horror comes with actual fighting with the vampires, but it's not a horror movie. It's more of like a period piece costume drama about just like this passage of time with these characters, and like Tom Cruise's character dies but then comes back later. And sorry if I spoiled it, but it's like it's one of those movies where I didn't think it needed to be that long, and I wish there was an added element of like a little bit more horror, just because I just went into it expecting more horror, and it was more just like a spooky vibe. But it was just kind of this long character piece about these vampires that lived a long time and going through history. Like it wasn't particularly interesting to me. If you all want a really fun vampire movie about the passage of time, check out What We Do in the Shadows, the Taika Waititi film. That is much more fun. But this one was just kind of like, and it's just because my mom was like, "Oh, I love that movie," and I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait," and it was just like,
interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so don't recommend that. But there is a new series out now that one of our competitors, the Feisty Phoenix, Stacy, says is awesome. So go check out the series that's airing. But I don't recommend the movie. Or maybe for an audience that likes that type of movie, maybe. But I couldn't vibe with it.
All right. Good to know, Dill. A movie I will for sure skip.
Okay.
2.5 hours. That's dedication.
Unless you want to see a good Kirsten Dunst performance. I mean, like if you're there for the acting, I think it's good. But okay, it's only 2 hours and 3 minutes, but it feels like 3 hours.
Okay, but it feels longer. See, that's no good either. So my hands down biggest disappointment.
Wait, is this our number ones now?
No. This is like my number one of my biggest disappointment. We did 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Did I do 5?
Night of the Living Dead, Ghostbusters, Carrie, Halloween Town.
What did I do? Oh, The Omen, Jaws 2 interview, and because I went after you. So yeah, you're number one, and then we'll talk about number one. Gotcha. That's where I was throwing off. I thought you went after me, so I was like, did I do all 5? I have 1 left.
Oh, no worries. Yes, this is my biggest letdown of the 31 films for sure.
Oh no.
The Blair Witch Project.
Oh, I agree. Nothing special.
This one is from 1999. I know that. And oh my God, this movie was hyped up as the scariest movie of all time. And yeah, maybe that review came in the year 1999. But I feel like even people like today talk about like this movie like it's I feel like the lore around this movie it's like it's so iconic, like it's so and I guess it was doing something different for the time because it is kind of like, all the point of view like first person shots with the camera and all of that stuff. But it's nothing happens in it. You like literally nothing happens. Nothing scary happens besides some stones being in piles when they wake up.
Stones.
And there's like little stick figures in the trees, but there's no jump scares. There's no other people in the movies besides the three people that are on the camping trip.
Mhm.
And and then it just ends and you're like, that's it? What did I just watch? I watched nothing. I
Yeah.
just watched three people get lost in the woods, which yeah, I guess is kind of scary, but like,
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
the
know.
scariness for people back then was thinking something was coming, but then the
Sure.
always on the edge of your seat, like, when's it gonna come? When's it gonna come? When's it gonna come? And I think
Well,
that can
yeah.
be a little disappointing at the end when you're like, that's it. Um, and I agree. I never really got the hype for this. I thought you were gonna go with like a classic. I thought you were gonna say The Shining, and I was gonna be like, Hells.
Oh, no, no,
But
no.
no, but like this was like very interesting because I watched this my freshman year of college. I haven't watched it since, but I was like, I just don't get the hype. And I think it's also the found footage thing. Found footage to me, it's a gimmick that only works like 3 out of every 10 times. That's where like it's almost as if you're picking up someone's camcorder. That's
Yeah.
found footage. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I just don't love that style unless like it's really effective, unless there's actually something to say about it. Which spoiler alert, one of my top five is a found footage film. But this
Mm.
one just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. It's just not as scary to me. And I get it at the time, maybe because it was also one of the first found footage films. Maybe that's why people were like, "Oh my god, it's so real! Like this could happen." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, but
Mm.
what could happen? What happens?" Because
Yeah,
I guess at the
literally.
end you
What could
kind of
happen?
see the witch a little bit in the corner or whatever. Um, like she's
I
in one
didn't
frame or whatever.
I didn't see
So
it. I'll have to go back. Cuz the last shot
you
is
don't
just
have
like
to.
the last shot is like the guy standing in the corner, just like facing the wall.
Yeah, I can't remember. I have to revisit it too. It's been a while, but those are our duds, people. Let's talk about some
The
good. Let's talk about some good movies, and then we'll get into like some of our favorite scares and stuff like that.
Wait, don't
Oh,
you have
that's
one
right.
more?
I do. I do.
Go ahead.
I was afraid
Tell
to
us
bring this.
still.
I was afraid to bring this up because this has a real
Okay.
big following in like the indie art house realm.
Okay, I'm
Chad,
nervous.
who's a great friend of the show, loves this film. A lot of people I know love this film. It's from 1977. It's called House. It is a Japanese film.
Mm,
It's about these girls who go on a visit to like see this aunt in this house, in like an ancestral house. And there's like this girl and her six friends. They go and they're there at the house, and then the house starts like attacking them, basically. Not something in the house, but the house
like
itself.
Monster House? Like that movie
Kind
Monster House?
kind of, but it's more subtle. It's like it builds and it goes kind of out of control. But the
Okay.
thing with this movie, I really like the idea. I like the filmmaking techniques they're doing in it because they're doing a lot of different techniques. There's split screen, there's like different zooms and edits and cuts, there's stuff with sound, there's different stuff with music, there's every type of
Mm,
like filmmaking technique you could imagine. There are some shots of this where if I framed it on a wall, I'd be like, that's beautiful, that's beautiful, that's beautiful. But when you put it all together, it's like you could have a really good sundae with like vanilla and hot fudge. You can have a great sundae with like
mm.
strawberry and strawberries on top. But what if you get like vanilla and strawberry and mint, and then you top on with some candies, and then you put some gummies on it, and then you put hot fudge and syrup, but then you also put ketchup, and then you also put mustard, and
And
then
then
you
you
load it up.
have
Then you
ice
load it
cream
up with pickles and you
pizza.
put peanut butter on there, and then you put some cheese on top, put it in the oven, fry it up. That's what this movie feels like. It's a lot of really delicious things that should not go together. And I think
Ah,
that's kind of
okay.
what I was feeling the whole time because it's so out there, it's so crazy. You're watching this. I honestly should have watched this stoned out of my mind because I think this is one of those movies that if you are out of it, I think you would love it. But because I wasn't, I was just kind of like, oh my god, this is gonna be a headache because there's so much going on. I think some people appreciate it for that. It's in the Criterion Collection, like which is like a big honor. So like it's one of the most influential because it does so many techniques. It's like innovative, but I just think it didn't all come together for me. Like I just wish it was a little bit more straightforward. I wish they took a few elements out of there because it's like almost like they threw everything in the wall, and what sticks is really good, but then there's so much that doesn't stick that falls to the floor, and that's your ketchup on ice cream. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a good analogy, I hope, but because that's like what this movie feels like. It was like, oh, I was really digging it until they started putting the ketchup on the ice cream, and I'm like, oh, come on. It's a
Ice
really good
cream
idea.
pizza.
It's a really good premise. We'll try it someday, but it's like a really good premise, a really good idea that it just didn't work for me. And it's the most disappointing because it was not the most hyped up, but it's like one of those like esteemed Japanese horror classics. And I love international cinema. I have, I think,
Mhm.
2 international films in my top 5. Like I love international cinema. So to see that this was like not my cup of tea, I was so sad. Like it made me the most sad. The others, I was just kind of like, oh, this sucked. All right, whatever. This one, I was like, oh, this sucked. And I'm mad about it because I really wanted to like it a lot, and I like certain elements a lot. But ultimately, it's not the worst of all the movies I watched. That is Disney's Zombies. We're okay there. But this is the most disappointing for sure. Um,
All right.
so those are our duds. I
Those
do
are
think
it.
you should check it out. I do think you should check it out just because
Okay.
everyone else seems to love it. So maybe check it out. House. I don't know what streaming service it's on, but it's on one of them, HBO Max, I think. But it's like
Probably.
it's a really good it's a really good film to some, not for me. But yeah, let's talk about some of the best. And why don't I start it off so you can end yours with,
Yeah.
like the best. So
Okay.
we're gonna talk about like superlatives, like what was the scariest moment, what were some of the best performances you saw. So
Sure.
my number 5 is an international film. This is a film from, I believe, also Japan. Yes, from Japan. Have you ever seen the film Audition?
No.
I'm not going to spoil anything about the last half because the last half is the horror. The first half is like this really compelling drama. The premise, the basic premise, and this is my number 5 pick, Audition, also from 1999, same year as Blair Witch.
All
This is
right.
one of my international picks. This guy, his wife dies, and 7 years later, he, I don't know if he's like a producer or like a company executive or whatever, but he's got like this friend who's like into casting like different projects, films, TVs, theater, whatever. And he basically says like, I need to find human connection again. I need to find someone to be my partner for life. And they basically hold an audition for a role. Unbeknownst to the actresses, the part they're auditioning for is basically going to be like, it's basically not there to be a role. They're scouting out his future partner through an audition. So it's really heavy into commentating on like misogyny and how like men treat women as objects and shit like that, which I'm all for. Not treating women like objects. I'm all for the messaging. I'm all for like spreading that message that that's not okay. Do you get what I'm
All
trying
right.
to say? Like I'm
Yes.
all for movies that preach
You worded it
pro-feminacy.
poorly, but yes,
I
you were
did.
like misogyny, which I'm all for.
No, I'm all for the criticisms of misogyny. I'm all
Yes.
for
Gotcha.
dissecting what misogyny is and toxic masculinity, all that shit. And like through this
Gotcha, Joe.
audition process, he like finds this one girl that he's immediately connected to and drawn to. The thing is, she has no background. Like she has all the contacts she had. Oh no, the wig's coming off.
I'm sorry, I
Um,
have to take the wig off.
um,
My head is hurting
the,
so bad.
there's
Oh.
like no information on like this girl's previous employment. Like she has employers' names there. Like some of them have been passed away for a while. Some of them haven't been working for a while. Like they call all the numbers, they don't really ring. No one knows anything about this girl. She's basically this big mystery. And this guy is so drawn to her that he doesn't care, and he takes her out for dinner. He sleeps with her. He pursues her. And where the film goes from there, I will not say. But it is one of the most crazy endings I've ever seen in terms of like the movie's going, and then like boom, it like skyrockets. And I kind of love it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those movies that like for the misogyny stuff, the comments on toxic masculinity and all that, I think it's really brilliant. But then when it gets into its actual horror, and it's one of those things where it's like it's not like a pro-feminist piece because what she ends up, the revelations that happen with her character aren't necessarily like, yay, women. It's more like,
Okay.
whoa, women. Like we gotta, like it's very interesting
Okay.
what they do with her character and like the lessons he learns and like the almost comeuppance he gets for what he's done, but also just him learning like, oh shit, I shouldn't have treated these women as props and shit because everything that happens to him, I want to say what happens, but I can't because it's so good. Um, yeah, it's amazing. It's one of those horror movies that always have me guessing because it's about to turn at some point. There's something sketchy
Sure.
going on in this relationship. You're like, something's got to happen. Like something, there's got to be a secret to her that we don't know. And when you find out the secret to her that you don't know, and then you see how he deals with that secret and what happens as a result of him finding out about her secret, it is quite nuts. So I do recommend Audition from 1999. It has some slow bits, but I think it's worth the burn. It's worth the slow burn because it is, it's a trip. It's something.
Honestly, Jill, I love movies that do that, that are kind of just like are starting one way and then just like everything shifts and then you're just off. You hit the ground running in a completely new direction.
Mhm.
I love movies that do that to you.
What was your number 5? Or
So
yeah, in
my
your top. I don't
my number 5 in my top 5 is a rewatch for me.
know.
It's actually one of my favorites. Just like not just even in like the horror or like scary Halloween movie genre, just like of all time ever,
Okay.
because I think that this movie is so creative and cool and fascinating. And it's Coraline.
Ooh, I didn't know you watched this. That's awesome. I'd
Yes.
love to hear what you have to say about Coraline. Yeah.
So I just think that, like, first of all, the animation and the visuals in this movie are like none other. I love how like it's an animated movie. You could call it a children's movie, but like it could also be argued that it's like very like just dark and
It's adult.
mysterious, and
Yeah.
there's like so much like adult themes to it that like really anyone of any age could enjoy this movie. And I think that it's like it's an even darker twist of Alice in Wonderland, essentially, where this girl moves into this new house. She finds this little doll that looks exactly like how she is. It's almost like a hybrid of Alice in Wonderland and Hansel and Gretel, where there's this kind
Mhm,
of like evil witch in the forest that's trying to like lure
mhm.
children to her candy house,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And you just it's an amazing film. I think that everyone should watch it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And
Henry
it's just
Selick, yeah, is the director of it. He did
oh, and the
Nightmare Before
music,
Christmas.
the
Yeah.
soundtrack. Didn't even get to the soundtrack. The soundtrack is so amazing. Sometimes I just listen to the soundtrack just because it
I
like
was gonna
makes me
say,
feel better.
Kels, if you like this movie, you've already seen Nightmare Before Christmas too. It's the same director, Henry Selick, who did Nightmare Before Christmas and this. He also just made a new movie that actually came out 3 days ago on Friday called Wendell
Oh.
and Wild on Netflix. It is ready for this. It's directed by Henry Selick, his first movie since Coraline.
Oh,
It's like stop motion, but also CG blend.
I
It's an
love
animated
stop
film.
motion.
It's an animated film starring Key and Peele as Wendell and Wild, who are these. It's almost kind of like Beetlejuice. They're like these two demons who are trying to like accomplish a goal, and they need a human child to help them accomplish it. Their whole thing is that they have this special cream that can raise people from the dead and bring them back.
Oh,
And their whole thing is that
interesting.
they go to other like people, like they go to this like news, this old like councilman who needs to get a majority vote. He's like a Republican, needs to get a majority vote over these liberals. And the Wendell and Wild are these demons who are like, we can help you raise 5 conservative congressmen from the dead, and you can get your majority vote. And it's like, as long as they're living congressmen, they can vote. And it's like kind of hijinks like that. You start to see this girl who like she's dealing with the trauma of losing her parents, and she wants to bring her parents back. But then you see what like comes of
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
not as good as Coraline or Nightmare Before Christmas, but it is still a fun time. And you know who wrote it?
Okay.
Jordan Peele. So Jordan Peele's not just in it; he wrote it, and he's made obviously some classics: Get Out, Us,
Yeah.
Nope. So like, it's Jordan Peele writing, Henry Selick directing. It's animated. It's just hit Netflix on Friday, so like I highly recommend it because it's like kind of got that
Wow.
same vibe, Wendell and Wild. Yeah, I'm excited for you to check that out. It's not in my top 5. I did watch it for this month,
Okay.
but it was a fun watch. Yeah, so I
Cool.
definitely love the Coraline love. It's a great movie. That's also the first movie I ever discovered Sour Patch watermelons at. I went to see Coraline in
Oh,
theaters. I think
nice.
it was 2008, right? So we were 10 years old. I think we were in like fourth or fifth grade. Me and our
I
good buddy Tyler went to see Coraline at the Westfield Rialto, and when that was
nice.
still a thing. and I remember I got Sour Patch Watermelons. I was like, these are so good, because it might have been new back then. I got to see when Sour Patch Watermelon came out. It was probably like 2009, right? That's when Coraline.
I think yeah, Coraline's 2009.
Um, but yeah, great movie and a great animated pick. I like how you have an animated pick because I wish I could have gotten one on there, but yeah.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Sorry, I know it's my turn, but I want to see when it was invented.
Oh,
Patch
the
Watermelon
Sour Patch Kids?
invented in 2014. That doesn't seem right. Nope, 1993. Okay, so no. They were very much around. You're muted. All right. So my number 5, right? Or is this my number 4? Oh, Audition was my number 5. Duh. My number 4
this is your number 4.
is our found footage film that I'm going to talk about, because you talked about Blair Witch. I'm talking about M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit from 2015. This is a movie. M. Night Shyamalan has made some duds, some stinkers. He made The Last Airbender. A lot of people don't love his movies, but he did make some classics like The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Split. So he's a director I admire because he goes there. Every movie he makes has a big twist at the end. Some of them you see coming, some of them you don't. This movie, the reason I like it is because the found footage actually has a point in the narrative. It actually makes sense because it's all about this girl and her brother. They're the kids of Catherine Hahn, who we know as Agatha Harkness. Catherine Hahn basically wants to go on this really nice cruise with her boyfriend to celebrate their anniversary, and they say, hey, she calls up her parents. She's like, can you take care of the kids for the weekend? Catherine Hahn hasn't talked to her parents in a while. She's kind of not estranged from them, but like they've had like a bit of a falling out, but she's still in contact enough to say, hey, I need to leave the kids somewhere. Can you take them? I've never been on a vacation on my own. The grandparents agree to take them. So she sends them on a train. They get to the house, and these 2 old people pick them up, their grandparents, and take them to their house, and everything's great. Then things start to get a little weird. They find in the middle of the night, they're told not to leave their bedroom after 9:30, which is like super early for kids their age, and they have to they go out to grab some cookies from the cookie jar. It's very stereotypical, but they find the grandmother running around the house naked. And then they go out into the back shack, and
terrifying.
The next day, they find all these moldy, rotten diapers that apparently are the grandfathers in the shack. So you start to see as the movie progresses that these people, these grandparents, maybe aren't who we think they are. And that's all I'll say. I won't say what the twist is, because that's another thing that M. Night Shyamalan does well, is he creates this crazy twist. I think the twist pays off here, because the twist comes and you're like, holy shit, no way. And the reason I like it is because the found footage, the lead girl, the young girl, is a wannabe filmmaker, documentary maker. And her whole goal is to basically capture this, kind of relive the childhood of her moms, to kind of like, because her mom doesn't like to talk about her childhood because she had a bad relationship with the grandparents. So it's her trying to like recreate these memories and like make this piece about her mother. So she like interviews the grandparents and all this stuff. And like, she's trying to make a film about her family history. And you start to see at the end about like what is important in her family history. Like, it actually has a really nice sentimental through line while also being terrifying. I mean, there's one scene where she leaves the camera rolling at night to just see what the grandmother's up to. And there's a scene where the grandmother walks off camera, and then like 3 seconds later, she just pops into the frame, and you're like, oh, holy shit. So it's got jump scares, but I think they're well done. I think they're tasteful. And I think this movie just has some really fun, unexpected twists. So I do recommend The Visit. I'm not a huge M. Night Shyamalan fan all the time, but even when he's striking out, he's taking big swings. And I think this is a film where it's like he takes a big swing and he actually hits a home run here. So
nice.
This is definitely one of my favorites of his. And it's a great film because we've seen so many found footage movies that are just there for the sake of being different, whereas this one actually has something to say with the idea of her being a filmmaker and what this project overall means to her. And at the end, you realize that the whole time you've been watching her movie, which is kind of cool. But that's not the twist. It's just like at the end, it's like, and that's my movie, end credits. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I do recommend that.
Good to know, Dill, because I had heard of that movie, and I was hesitant towards it because I don't know, it looked like something I had already seen before, but if it's a good review from you, then I trust that it would be a good movie. So I'm really definitely going to check that one out.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is also another rewatch. Okay, so spoiler alert, they're on the bottom though, because I did that on purpose. And then my top 2 are movies that I watched for the first time. So this was another rewatch. Granted, I hadn't seen this
In a
in
long time.
like at least 15 years.
Ooh.
The last time I watched this movie is a long, long time ago. This is probably the only movie from the Disney era of Halloween themed movies that I had ever watched ever.
Is it
And
a
it's
segue from your number 5? Oh no, I know what it is. Never mind. Go ahead.
it's the Haunted Mansion.
I thought you were gonna go Nightmare Before Christmas, but I like the pick of
Oh,
Haunted Mansion a
no.
lot. I like the Haunted Mansion. Tell us about the Haunted Mansion.
So, Dill, what I appreciated the most about the Haunted Mansion is that it's actually kind of scary. It like there's some good scares in there. So essentially it's about this family. It's an Eddie Murphy film. So he's a father of this family, and him and his wife are real estate agents, and they get contacted, or more specifically the wife gets contacted by this man living in this mansion in this like very pristine old Victorian estate, and he's like, I need you to come, help me sell this property. So one night they're all on their way to their family trip to the lake. They're like, we'll stop by the house. We'll see, if we can get the sale or whatever. And basically what ends up happening is that every everyone in the mansion is dead. It's like they're all ghosts from years before, and there's this curse that's been put placed on the mansion, and basically they need the family's help to lift the curse. And there's some really good scary moments, but it's also balanced out really well just because Eddie Murphy is
Mhm.
so funny, and
Yeah.
there's some really good comedy in there as well.
Mhm.
So it's this really good balance. And yeah, I super enjoy this one. It's pretty high up on my list just because it really was one of my favorite movies growing up for whatever reason. I really liked it a lot. So there's that nostalgic factor for me, but it was also upon rewatch, I was like, this is a good film because it's like family friendly, but also scary. It has its scary
Mhm.
moments and it has its funny moments. I thoroughly enjoyed.
They're actually remaking it, I think, with I can't remember if I remember exactly who. I want to say Jamie Lee Curtis is gonna be the Madam. What's her name? Um, the one in
Oh, the
the little
woman,
ball.
the crystal ball.
Yeah, Madam Leota. So here's who's in the new one. Apparently, Rosario Dawson, who we've seen in Daredevil,
Uh-huh.
Lakeith Stanfield,
Cool.
Tiffany
He's
Haddish,
cool.
Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, Jared Leto, Winona
Okay.
Ryder, and Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek. So
Wow.
I don't, and then
That's
of
a
course
stacked
Jamie Lee
cast.
Curtis. So I'm interested to see them remake it. This honestly doesn't have the best reviews, and I'm wondering if it's like just our nostalgia. But I really think it's a solid movie. Like it's solidly spooky. I like Eddie Murphy in it. I think it's actually, like you said, scary at times. Have you seen the Muppet version that they released last year?
No.
They released
Should
a
I?
Muppet version of this. Yeah, why not?
Okay.
It's short. It's fun though. I wish they did Muppet versions of every horror movie because that's so much fun.
Make them
Great
more
pick though.
fun. Thank
Great
you.
pick. My number 3 is another international film. Sensing a trend. It is a movie I was always scared to watch, and I finally suckered up to it. It is The Babadook. The Babadook audition
Ah.
in The Babadook A, B, and spoiler alert, my C is my number 2. So ABC was all like that was
Wow.
very
You
top heavy. My list.
started off real strong.
So The Babadook is a short 94 minutes, but it feels like forever only because I was like this the whole time.
Mm.
That's a good thing. This is actually the director of The Exorcist, William Friedkin, said that this is the scariest movie he's ever seen, and I don't fault him. It's basically the single mother and her kid. She starts reading him this bedtime story of the Babadook, and then like the Babadook is actually there, and the kid's saying the Babadook's there, and she's like, no, he's not, no, he's not. It's kind of the boy who cried wolf thing, but he's
Mm.
also very. The thing is, the movie cares more about this relationship than it does the Babadook, and that's what I appreciate about this movie. Is it's about the relationship between mother and son, because he has like a little bit of a violent tendency, and it's not
Mm.
ever harmful, but he's like into weapons, and he's into like weird things that some kids aren't, and like you start to see how she kind of like start to resent him almost in a way, but then you also see how they kind of come together through these tragedies and the experiences that happen to them. And Essie Davis, who is the lead here as a mother, just gives one of the best performances I've ever seen. It's directed by
Mm,
a woman, so it's also got some great feminist angles. It's
love
I think the
that.
only film I had on my list directed by a woman, which is sad because I just feel like horror is not as much, you know, we see a lot of it from the male gaze. So this was really cool
Hmm.
to see her Jennifer Kent's work on this. I just really liked it. It's also Australian. I don't know if that has any difference. It makes it
Ooh,
scarier, but
they
the
have
actual Babadook
accents.
is very scary though. But it's the
Mhm.
movie's more than just that. It's about this relationship. I have nothing but positive things to say. I won't talk too much about it just because there are a lot of spoilers and stuff in there. But I do recommend it because it is very scary. But it's more importantly just a great character drama. So
All right.
you ever seen
I
that
love
or no?
it. No, I haven't actually.
You'll have to add
I
it to your list.
Jess and Candace, my two friends who I watch
Mhm,
all my scary movies with, we have like our own scary movie club together,
mhm,
had watched The Babadook because we were all in the same film class in high school. It was like extra credit or something to watch it with the
mhm.
film club or something. And they said that it was like the worst movie they've ever seen. So I always thought that it was just it was like a shitty
Oh,
movie,
interesting.
but
Well, I like it.
I
Um,
I trust your opinion though,
I
your
wanna say
review over
our
there
acting I
still.
wanna say our acting teacher liked it too, or maybe I might be misremembering, but I feel like he liked it too. I don't know. We'll have to ask him. What is your number? What is this number 3? Yeah.
Yes, my number 3 and my last rewatch of this category, and this is probably, like, definitely this is honestly probably in, like, my top 3 of my horror movies. I love this movie so, so much, and it is Silence of the Lambs.
Ooh, good pick. Yeah, I talked about it on Picture this month. It's a great movie. Won Best Picture.
Yeah. So Silence of the Lambs is about this FBI in training. She's not even in there it is. She's not even officially in the FBI yet.
Mhm.
She's a cadet in training or whatever it's called. She's in the academy, played by Jodie Foster. Her name is Clarice
Mhm. Clarice.
Starling.
Hello, Clarice. Yes.
Hello, Clarice. And she goes to interview Hannibal Lecter, I'm sorry, Dr. Hannibal Lecter, this infamous cannibal who ate and killed his victims
Yeah.
because they need his help in order to solve
Yeah.
a serial
Because he's
killer
also
case.
as scary as he is, he's also brilliant and he's very smart.
Yes, yes. Played by Anthony Hopkins, and it's just so smart. They're both such strong actors. They're in my best performances. I have a
Yes,
few
yeah.
people when it comes to best performances, and they're definitely in there. Just because they both give such a strong performance. It's not super scary in in the first 2 acts, but act 3 is, like, horrifying. You will be on the edge of your seat the entire
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
and the twist at the end, it's really good. I also just love, like, true crime. It feels like it could be,
Mhm.
like, a prolonged, like, Criminal Minds episode almost,
Yeah.
just the
I
way that
I
she's, like, kinda working for the
yeah.
BAU almost.
Mhm. I also just love the
Such a
feminist
good
theme
one.
of Clarice in this man's
Yeah,
world, like, the shot of her in the
yeah.
elevator with all the men, I'm like,
Yes,
That's
yes.
purposeful."
Yep,
Great
100%.
movie. The escape scene where Hannibal escapes, so good. So good.
Oh
The
my
bait and
god,
switch
yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just
yep.
so everything's just so well crafted. Oh, I love it. Um, yeah, that actually ended up being Chad and I's. It was my number 2, his number 1 for 1991, so it ended up being our number 1 of the year, so,
Oh,
very good
nice.
representative. My number 2 is a classic that I had never seen, and I'm very excited I finally got around to it because
Nice.
I thought this franchise was kinda like a one that wasn't talked about as the same length of like Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween, but actually I think this might be one of my favorite like first movies in a franchise because now I
Okay,
just want to watch all of them. It's
okay.
Child's Play. It's Chucky, baby.
Oh, interesting,
Child's Play,
Dill.
the very first Child's Play. Have you ever seen it?
No, I've been too
Okay,
scared.
well, that's the thing. It's like it's terrifying because it's this doll and the doll itself is creepy, but it's the fact that like the whole first act the doll is not like evil yet, or he is but he's not showing it. And there's
Okay.
the scene that is this is spoiler alert, my like number 2 scariest scene is when
Mm,
he the woman picks up the doll because apparently this doll's causing havoc, and she's like, I know it's the doll, I know it's the doll. She picks it up and she's like, or the kid says it's the doll, and she's like, what are you talking about? She's looking at the doll, and the doll's talking back to her as a normal doll, like, "Oh, thank you. He's like programmed that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
she turns the doll, and then she sets the doll down, and it's like, I'm trying to get him to talk normally, like, because she's like, I know you're not, you know, on autopilot. Like, I know you can speak. I know you can speak. And she's like, whatever. Goes back to the box, and she's like, what do I do to make him talk or whatever? And the batteries fall out of the box, and you realize that he was not on batteries. He was talking himself. The batteries falling out of the box is the scariest moment. I mean, I jumped. I was like,
Wow.
oh, and that's when she like goes to him, and then he starts going into his Chucky mode of like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, bitch. And it's like, it's so
Yeah.
funny. It's like one of
Yeah.
those funny but also scary movies, and I just think it's very well
Sure.
paced. It's got a good story. I think the villain, like Chucky's very scary. Like he rides the elevator, and all you see is like his little silhouette. It's kind of scary because he is so tiny and small. Like there's a scene
Yeah.
where it's the POV of a guy in a car who just got like, the Chucky was in the car and like basically made the car flip or whatever just by like
Mm.
steering it out of control. And this guy's trying to get out from under the car, but Chucky's running around the car, and all you can hear are his footsteps.
His like little
Um,
feet.
yeah, you can kind of see it every now and then too, but you just know
Yeah.
he's like around the car, and it's like if he moves, Chucky could stab him in the face. It's
Oh
so
my
good though. I
God.
do recommend it because it's like scary, but it's just a blast. Like I was shocked at how much I liked this movie. Like
Wow.
I loved it. So I do recommend Child's Play. It was quite fun.
Good to know, Dill. That's wow. You're really surprising me with your top 5
Well,
in
because also these are all
here.
first time watches, so I don't have any like the real staples on my list just because
Sure.
I've seen them all. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this was one of those staples though that I hadn't seen, and I was like, wow. This and Rocky Horror was another staple where it's like, I can't believe I haven't seen this, and I was like, I loved it. That was like my number 6 was Rocky Horror, but yeah.
So my number 2 is finally a first time watch.
I
This
think I know
movie
where you're going.
I was so
Presently.
pleasantly, sorry, the autocorrect in my brain just didn't work in that moment. I was so pleasantly surprised with this movie because I genuinely did not know what to expect going in. I really had no idea what the
Is this an
plot
international
was.
film, Kels?
I don't think, no, Dill, I'm
Oh, I'm thinking of
sorry.
another one. Okay, never
You,
mind. We'll talk about it
that
later. I thought you were going with Parasite.
That one didn't make the cut, actually. I changed it up a little bit after I sent you my official list. I know what movie you're thinking
Oh,
of,
you didn't
but
make it. It didn't make it onto your actual 31. Gotcha.
no.
Okay, so
I
you're gonna watch Parasite in the next few weeks and let me know how you
No,
thought.
but I will. I will get
Okay.
around to
I thought you
watching
were
Parasite,
gonna
I
pick Parasite.
promise.
All right. So what is
Oh
your number
no.
2 though?
My number 2 is Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
because
Cool.
I just thought it was so sweet, and Johnny Depp gives such an endearing performance in this movie, and you watch it and you just can't help but to love, just like you fall in love with like all of the characters. Anthony Michael Hall being in it was like a shock to me, especially that he's like the bully. He goes from being the scrawny little brain in the Breakfast Club to bullying Johnny Depp and Edward Scissorhands. That's character development, baby. But it was just so sweet. I walked away just feeling just like so good. And like that's weird to say about a movie that you watch during spooky season, but like just like the imagery of him having these like claws, these weapons for hands is
Yeah.
like kind of the spookiest thing about it. But at the end of the day, you just root for Edward Scissorhands
Hmm.
and you just want him to be happy. So
Yeah,
it's my number
it's a
2.
good movie. I haven't seen it in so long. That's why I just never thought it never crossed my mind. But yeah, it's such a good movie. Great
It's a
performance.
good
That was
one.
actually a Halloween costume I did as a kid. My mom made me the costume. She had these like cool tinfoil scissors that she made. Really
Yeah.
cool. That's a good movie. So we're at my number 1. Ooh. And my number 1's a little bit of a cheat because it's 2 films of a trilogy. I'm going with the second film because I said earlier it's a sequel kind of.
Okay.
It's actually a prequel.
Okay.
But I'm roping the first one in with it because I also watched the first one. The first one's good, but like this prequel is what I'm going to be talking about. And they're
Okay.
both from this year. They're both from 2022. So
Oh, okay. I know where you're going.
Ty West made a film a few months ago called X, which is
Mm-hmm.
about a group of filmmakers who go into this old abandoned Texas neighborhood, rural neighborhood, to not abandoned, but it's very low rundown, to film a porno. And they film a porno, and turns out that the house across the street or across the way it has these two old people living in it named Pearl, and I forget her husband's name. And they basically kind of spy on the kids, and then eventually the kids, from their own drama, their own bickering, their own arguments, they start to like one gets mad and storms off and then has an encounter with Pearl. Things don't go her way. She stabs him to death. And then you realize it's a full-on slasher. So what I like about this film, and this isn't my pick, this is part of the pick. This is kind of like the tie because the next film I'm
Okay.
picking is the prequel to it, but we'll get there in a
Okay.
sec. But X is really interesting because half of it is this really compelling drama about like the sex industry and the porn industry and like how like it shouldn't be much of a taboo and how like these actresses feel free doing it and you see like the kind of fun nature of like filming something with your buddies and yes it's porn but like there's something kind of nice about them just all hanging out
Mm-hmm.
together getting along. But it's not until the camera girl or the boom mic girl who's played by Jenna Ortega, who is one of the best up and coming stars, decides she's like I kind of want to try it, and the guy behind the camera is her boyfriend. He's like no you're not. She's like I can do whatever I want. It's my body. It's my choice. And again, I love the feminist themes here, of
Mm-hmm.
like, it's my decision to do what I want to do. And he's just like, oh, I can't take it anymore. And like at night, he like can't get it out of his head, and he goes wandering off. And he's the first victim,
Mm.
because Pearl encounters him, and there's something up with Pearl. You don't really know what's going on. She has this kind of like she's kind of wondering you kind of wonder what her motive is, why she's so drawn to these kids. And that's why I really like, and that's why my number one is the prequel called Pearl, which also
Mm.
came out later. It's the same actress. So Mia Goth plays one of the young porn actresses and plays Pearl. She's under a lot of prosthetic makeup, and she plays young
Mm.
Pearl in the prequel. So she plays Pearl at both times. It's just she's unrecognizable as the older Pearl, and
Wow.
she's like the final girl of X, and they're actually making a third movie called Maxine, which is about her character, the girl from X who ends up escaping. But
Wow.
Pearl is and the whole thing is that they filmed this movie secretly. No one knew this was going to come out until the post credit scene of X said coming in a few months Pearl, and it's like it has already been filmed, it's already been edited, so it was already a surprise. I actually got to see Pearl first, which I think actually really helped my enjoyment of X, because a lot of X, you're kind of wondering what is Pearl's motive? Why is she so drawn to this? Why does she take her anger out on the guys? Because she almost says to the kid with the camera, she's like, kiss me. And the kid's like, no, you're an old lady. I'm not going to kiss you. And she slices his throat. And it's like, it's bloody. It's kind of gross. I actually kind of love the scene. It's the same death scene. I'm spoiling the first death. I'm not going to spoil the other ones, but it's like
Okay.
she's cutting him, and his car lights are on because she stops him in the middle of the road. But as she's slashing him with the knife, the blood is getting on the car light, so all the light is going from yellow to red as she's slashing him. So like it's a
Whoa.
cool lighting effect. But you kind
Cool.
of wonder like what is Pearl's motive? And I think Pearl does a good job in explaining who Pearl is and why she grew up this way, because it deals with a lot of like the sexual oppression of her being in a sheltered household and kind of wanting to know what it's like to have sex and explore things and be with other people and like have those experiences, and she never has that. And the whole movie is about how she's kind of restricted, and she takes her anger out on those who are privileged. Like there's this blonde character that she's up against in a dance competition, and when the girl who's blonde gets it, she like basically delivers this whole haunting monologue to her before killing her. And it's like
Mm.
it's an 8 minute monologue, no cuts, of just Mia Goth delivering this monologue. It's the best thing I've ever seen, the best acting I've seen this year, hands down, from Mia Goth.
Wow.
But it's really amazing because you can then see in X how after seeing Pearl, it makes so much more sense of why Pearl is the way she is in Pearl. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people, when they saw X, they were like, it was good, but like the villain was kind of so. But having seen Pearl now, I think a lot of people can now put it into context and be like, oh, that makes a lot more sense in X. Like there's a scene in X where she's like, I told you I don't like blondes. And that kind of brings it back to Pearl with the girl, the dancer. So I really like
Ah,
how Pearl kind
gotcha.
of fleshes out all the character stuff of the character Pearl from X. So now when I watched X, because I saw that after, I was like in the mentality of who Pearl was, and I was able to enjoy it so much more. But I think X is a really just straight up slasher, whereas Pearl is just a really interesting character piece. It's kind of like the Joker in the sense it's like this character kind of going off the deep end, but it's much more nuanced. I think it looks great. It kind of has this old like pseudo Wizard of Oz feel, like where it's like the cornfields in Kansas, everything's a little crackly a little bit in the sound
Sure.
and the way the music is used. It's really interesting, and just the way she obviously there's a lot of killing in Pearl too, but it's much more paced out. spaced out, and it's just so good. And that 8-minute monologue is the best acting I've seen in years. It is so good, and I highly recommend it. I honestly think for those who haven't seen either, watch Pearl first and then watch X. I think it'd be a lot more interesting that way. That's how I watched it, because a lot of people who watched X and then Pearl were like, "Oh, now I got to go back and watch X again." But I think watching Pearl first, I liked it more. But I could also see how if you watch X, Pearl is different in
Hmm.
comparison. But I dug it so much. I think it's so brilliant. Everything looked great, well acted. It's one of my favorite films of the year, Pearl. And X is still a great film. It's one of my favorite horror films of the year, but Pearl really blew me away. So Pearl is hands down the best movie I watched this month, next to, of course, Halloween, because that's just like the one I watch every year. But Pearl is gonna be like a horror classic. I think it's like gonna be like a
Nice.
named character that like you think of when you think of slasher villains, like great slasher villains. So I highly recommend Pearl.
Wow. I
Did I
love
sell
that.
you?
Yeah, for
Cool.
sure. I mean,
Cool.
I had heard people talking about this like trilogy that was coming out that like
Because
turned
no one
into
knew
a
it was a
trilogy that
trilogy. Yeah,
people, yeah, that no one like really saw coming. So I was already intrigued, Dill, but you sold me 100%.
cool.
I'll have to
And I
check
think
these
the
out.
third one, Maxine, which is so it's gonna end up being Pearl X Maxine. That's the order of things, and
Hmm.
Maxine is coming out I think next year. But still amazing. Like they haven't shot that yet because I think they first wanted to see how this went.
Sure.
But Pearl after credits spoils Maxine. It's like coming next year, Maxine. I'm like, wow, just so smart, so smart. But great stuff.
Awesome.
All right,
Love to
what's your
see
number
it.
one?
Love to hear it.
I have a guess. I'm gonna like
Okay.
write down. I'm gonna write down my guess.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll give you some time.
because I was
Um,
watching your TikToks and like I know you liked a lot of them, but I'm gonna just take a guess, and if I'm wrong, I'm not even gonna show it. But that's my prediction as to what your favorite movie you watched this month was.
okay.
All right,
So
ready?
at the risk of you want me to just say it?
No, you can build up to it.
Okay, at the risk of seeming like so basic, this was really a first time watch. I had tried to watch this movie in the past and I just like didn't have like the I don't know, maturity to just like sit and like really take it in and appreciate it for what it was. And I'm so glad that I properly sat down and like really watched it because I ended up really enjoying it, and that was The Shining.
Oh no, I wrote down Scream. I felt
Oh
like Scream was
no.
like a very Kelsey movie.
Oh.
I'm so glad you like The Shining though. Like, please tell me about The Shining. Oh, I'm so glad it's
So
your number one. Wow.
The Shining is really long. I mean, if and I don't even necessarily think that that's a complaint I have. I think that's just a general observation.
Yeah.
It's a pretty long movie. Um and but it's so fascinating from start to finish. The cinematography is like amazing. I love the costuming. Oh my gosh, the costumes are so fun. Wendy, all of her outfits, I was like, her outfits are cute. I'm like, she's my fashion inspo for the rest
Shelley
of the
Duvall.
fall
Yeah.
season.
She's
Like
doing a
it.
new movie too. Shelley Duvall, her first movie
Oh
in like
really?
40 years or whatever. Yeah, because this movie scarred her, like the way she was like experiencing things on set. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's good to see
I
her. She's
heard she
making a
kind of went
comeback.
through it.
Yeah.
Good for her because she's a scream queen, dare I say. Um and it's just so haunting and unsettling, and it's the same vibe as Blair Witch, where it's like I for the first like kind of two acts you're kind of like, okay, when's shit gonna hit the fan, like when's it coming, and then it just rocks the boat. And it's so great that like the set of like the hotel is so interesting and intricate, and like all the different areas that take place, and then the maze, the hedge maze, and like the final moments that happen in there is like fantastic. I think that all three of the actors, one of them being a little boy, really carry their weight through the whole thing. Like I was just so impressed with that child who played Danny.
Danny. Mhm.
um and there's just so many layers to it. I didn't 100% understand the ending, Dill,
Like, what
with
about it?
with the picture.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it's one of those things where I think I did at a time, but I can't like think in my
I
brain. It's been a while since I've seen The Shining, but I
I
do love it.
googled it. I googled it and it was saying I forget. See, like I don't even remember. Maybe it'll make sense if I like read the book. See, that's the thing. Like I watched the movie and I was like, that kind of makes me want to like read this book now.
Well, and Stephen King famously hates this movie
Yes.
because he
That
says
I
it's
also
not
read that.
accurate at all. But I think like I like how the director Stanley Kubrick, who's one of the best ever, like kind of like
Yeah.
really put his own spin on it. I mean, the blood in the elevator is so iconic.
Mhm.
Have you seen the sequel, Doctor Sleep, that came out a few years ago?
No, should I?
You
Well,
should,
I
yeah.
had never watched The Shining, so I was like, why would
Well,
I watch the
okay. Well, I
sequel?
wasn't sure if you watched it after like a few days ago or something like that. But
Yeah.
it's one of those movies that takes the inspiration visually and aesthetically of Stanley Kubrick's, but is more faithful to the book. So it's kind of like this kind
Mm.
of like continuation because Doctor Sleep is a book too. It's a sequel. It's where Danny's older. He's Daniel, played by
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor. Um, and
Oh.
yeah, it's really good, really good. I highly recommend it. Not as good as The Shining, but it's good. Yeah, The Shining is amazing. Um,
Like, The
Jack
Shining
Nicholson.
I
Oh,
watched and I was like, "Okay, this is like a classic. Like, this is a critically acclaimed movie for a reason." Like, I get it.
yeah, it's amazing. Um, wow, yeah. I know you watched Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, but it's good to see that this maze was your number one because it ends in a very similar way.
Yes.
There's definitely inspiration.
Almost.
So there we go. To recap, my top five was Audition, The Babadook. Oh God, I even forgot what I was saying. What was my number? Oh yeah, Audition, The Visit, The Babadook. What was my number two? Child's Play. Oh my God, I'm all over the place. Child's Play, and then Pearl/X. Kelsey, you want to just rattle off your top five again one more time?
Yeah, sure. Mine were Coraline, The Haunted Mansion, Silence of the Lambs, Edward Scissorhands, and The Shining.
Cool. That's a great list.
Are we
So
going to
what
talk about our like best performances?
I was gonna say, yeah, let's talk about some of our best performances, best kills. What was your like? What are some of your best performances? Because I assume some of them probably come from The Shining.
Okay, so I had mentioned before Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. I also want to shout out Dakota Fanning as Coraline. The voice
Yeah, nice.
acting was great in that. I definitely want to give her a shout out. But hands down, and I haven't even talked about this movie yet. I haven't even mentioned it.
Ooh,
But these two performances in this movie, I think, are my favorite performances that I've watched in all 31 films. And that is Megan Fox and Amanda Seyfried. What's her last
Seyfried,
name?
Seyfried, Amanda Seyfried,
Seyfried.
Seyfried.
Amanda Seyfried.
Oh, good.
In Jennifer's Body.
I'm watching
They
that for Halloween
both
tonight. I'm watching that.
they are both so stellar in
And
that movie.
they're
So good.
they ooze just sexual charisma too, but not to the point where they're just there to be beautiful bodies, because that's the whole
Yeah.
point of the movie. And like
Yeah.
I like how, but they're still obviously so charismatic in that way, but also just like really good actors. Like that is a good movie. That movie is so good. That movie
Yeah.
is so good.
I remember I told you I was watching that movie, Dylan. You were so excited. You were
Well, because
like, "Oh,
also
it's
that's a movie
great."
that's not really critically acclaimed. I think because it's built
Mhm.
more of a cult following, and that's one thing about horror. A lot of horror movies are rated poorly and get better like with time. The Shining was one of the worst movies of 1980 according to critics, but after time, as time has gone on, people are like, it's the best movie ever. And the same has
Mhm.
happened with a lot of films like Jennifer's Body's kind of getting that vibe. Um, yeah, really, really good. Um, so those are your top two.
Yeah, though they
Nice.
really blew me away, especially Megan Fox. Like
Yeah.
I give her props, man. Like
Hmm.
you want to see that Megan Fox is not just a pretty face. Watch Jennifer's Body because she carries that movie on her
Hmm.
back.
Um, yeah, I mean, I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I got to go with Mia Goth for Pearl. Like, she is just so
Sure.
good. And then in X, having her play, so she plays Pearl when she's young in Pearl, and then in X, she plays older Pearl in all this makeup, and she plays Maxine, who's the young girl on set. Like, I just think she's amazing. She's incredible. Yeah, there's really no performance that even rivals it on my list because my list is more of just like some hidden gems and stuff, but like none of them are
Sure.
really known for like amazing performances. Um, Yeah, that's got to be it. Honorable mention to Betty White in Lake Placid, a movie I watched that I did not like. Betty White made it
Okay.
likable at times. It's another Jaws ripoff. It's a big killer crocodile in a lake, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of dumb. But Betty White is the evil lady who's trying to keep her crocodiles because she loves them and she wants to feed them, and she makes them strong and powerful, and she ends up being a villain, and it's a fun Betty White performance. Rest in peace, Queen.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. What were some of your, or what is one of your favorite kills? Like, what are some of your favorite like death scenes or scary scenes? Like, what are some of the most scary scenes you watched?
So the biggest scare, the most I've jumped because I just truly was not expecting it.
Hmm.
Let me just pull this up real quick because I want to know
Oh, you're gonna show it?
the character. No.
Oh,
I
okay.
want to. I just want to know the characters' names because I don't know how else to describe him. Okay, so that's his name. So okay, so the big scare. Um, okay, so it's the scare in The Shining
Okay.
where the
Yeah.
guy who comes in who is like the other, oh, he's like the chef at the
Hmm.
hotel, played by Scatman Crothers.
Hmm.
His name is Dick Halloran. That's a character's name. I
Hmm.
don't remember that though. Um, but so he comes to the hotel just because he has like a sixth sense about it that something bad is going on there. And so he goes into the hotel, and it's when Jack Nicholson's character is going on a rampage with an axe. Like he's looking for Danny, he's looking for Wendy, just because he's gonna just off them because he's off his rocker, and
Hmm.
he's hiding behind a pillar, and the chef is walking down a hallway, and Jack Nicholson just screams and swings at him. And it took me like a few minutes to recover, like at least 5 minutes to recover from that jump. It really took me by
Did you
surprise.
post that video yet on TikTok or no?
The Shining, yeah. Yeah, The
Okay, I'm gonna have
Shining's
to go back because I
long
don't know if
gone.
I don't know if I watched that one or not. Is that
No,
reaction in there?
yeah, I
Okay,
jumped.
I'm gonna go watch that.
Dude.
Wow, yeah, go follow her Cause13 because you can see all her reactions in time with all these movies, which is really fun. Um,
Yes.
the scariest moment for me, the batteries falling out of the box in Child's Play is
Yeah,
great,
that's
but
intense.
yeah, I would say it's the visit, the scene where they're just rolling the camera and the grandma just pops
Mm,
up out of nowhere. I mean, just stuff like
terrifying.
that is so terrifying. A lot of these movies were not like jump scary movies. It was more just the ambiance of it was kind of scary. Like I watched the original King Kong, that was fun. Drag
Mm,
Me to Hell was fun. It was a Sam Raimi film that had some cool kills and cool moments. There's
okay.
actually a moment where she's like eating, I think it's like cake or pie or whatever, and looks down. There's like eyeballs in it. And I'm like, oh, that's like
Ooh,
Sam Raimi. That's Sam Raimi shit all over it. Um,
gross.
but yeah, well, what a good month. We watched some good movies. I think you watch better movies in general because I was just kind of diving into some deep dives and you were kind of going for the best of the best. But like
Yeah,
just really
maybe.
quickly, what do you think of Scream? Because I know it's on your top five, but do you like
Oh,
Scream?
Scream was like all right.
Okay.
Scream Scream was it really okay, so the problem with Scream is that it was kind of ruined for me because Scary Movie is like not the reveal, not the reveal.
Oh,
I didn't know who the killers were.
okay.
But so much of Scream is parodied
Hmm. Hmm.
in Scary Movie, the comedy movie with like Anna Faris.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the only actor that I know that's in that movie. Um, and so all these like little moments that were
Isn't
happening,
Coach
all
from
this.
New Girl in that? Or maybe his dad is. Damon Wayans
Oh,
or Marlon Wayans. I don't.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. Um, but yeah, so I felt like on some level I had already watched Scream just because so much of the movie is made fun of in Scary Movie.
Right.
Um, but it was like, it was very classic, like teen slasher. All the tropes were there, the funny friend, the main girl, the best friend. Um, it was very formulaic.
Mm.
But the reveal had me pretty shocked. Um, I'm honestly like I guess I can see why there's like a whole franchise behind it. Um, but at the same time, I'm like, where else do they go? because
Well, and that's what's interesting
who
because they
else
like,
who else
yeah.
like picks up the mask after like, the
Well,
killer in
honestly,
that
I
in
think
the
you'll
first
like
one.
Scream 2 because of that, because it's a much more
Okay.
interesting killer reveal. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm interested to see if you watch the rest, if you like them more or less. 4 is actually my favorite after the original, but yeah, so many good movies though we watched. Some stinkers, but some good ones all in all. Which of the Harry Potters is your favorite?
Oh, okay. Upon this rewatch,
They
I had
change.
a I had a really good time with the Order of the Phoenix, um,
I've never loved that
and
one.
Half Blood Prince.
Half-Blood Prince is good. Yeah,
Oh, and it's also really good? Deathly Hallows Part 1.
it
I had
slaps.
a really, really good time with those
Yeah.
3
I
upon
mean,
this
those movies
rewatch.
are they're all so good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've almost talked 2 hours, but thank you for joining us. As we said earlier, there will be trivia later tonight. I gotta edit that and put that up. But
I'm
this is
so
dropping in the
excited.
morning. I'm very excited because Kelsey also hasn't seen the second match. She didn't get to watch it because she can't because she's competing against the winner. She knows who won it. I told her, but she has to play along, which is going to be fun. But 2 amazing matches. We got Brian versus Zach. We got Noah versus JD, and we won't spoil either of those, but it's going to lead to some fun shenanigans for late 2022, early 2023. We already have our first match for 2023 scheduled. You'll find that out at the end of that match, because it involves maybe the winner of one match, maybe the loser of another. We'll see. But yes, I'm very excited. My socials are all down there. Check me out on Letterboxd because that's where you can find written reviews for all these movies, and check her out on TikTok because that's where you can see video reviews for all those movies. If you want to go through each and every movie we watched and we saw. The worst of mine was Zombies, but I'm not going to waste my time talking about it. DComs, man, they've gone downhill. But according to you, Halloween Down was already downhill, so they've always been downhill. They've just always been sitting at the bottom of the hill. Kelsey, any other words? Do you want to plug anything? I mean, go check out her channel for her Halloween movie that we filmed a few years ago, too.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, have a happy Halloween. Take care. Be safe. Don't eat I don't know. Eat candy, but be careful before you eat the candy. No razor blades in the candy, people. Don't. It's not fun. That's another bad Halloween experience. One time, my dad did find a razor blade in the candy because the parents always have to just inspect the candy when they get home. I was always like, why? And then one year, yep, sure enough, there was something in the candy, and my dad was like, that's why. So be careful.
That's crazy, Dill. I'm
ending
so
it on
sorry.
a sorrow note. Just kidding. Go watch all those movies though; they're especially great. If Pearl is still playing in theaters near you, try to check it out. If not, I believe it's on streaming now. X is on Showtime. The other movies we've all talked about can be found everywhere. The Shining and The Omen, even the bad ones like Carrie. Maybe you'll like them. And if you disagree, let us know in the comments, but be respectful. And thank you as always for tuning in. We'll see you next week with something. We haven't talked about what that'll be, but you'll see trivia tonight. We'll see you all later. Bye.